I have a dilemma to ask the doctor.
Okay.
I really was, after this week, looking forward to a glass of wine.
Uh-huh.
Maybe a bottle.
Uh-huh.
To share, of course. I have such a sinus headache, though.
Uh-huh.
Advil sinus,
Yes.
not the over-the-counter. Can I mix?
Oh, yeah.
Please tell me yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just, I recommend you drink as much water as you drink wine, or your headache's just going to get worse. But yeah, no, that should be fine. So where are you guys based?
There we go.
Normal.
Based off Norwalk.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was like trying to figure out why we ended up where we are. I was like, are they close?
Well, and you're based out of Sherman Oaks, I guess. So.
Yeah, and I actually was seeing a patient in Calabasas today. So
Oh, okay. Sounds
so
convenient.
it worked.
So, you're okay now? You're out of your car?
Oh, I'm so happy to be out of my car.
Good, good.
And luckily I can take Beverly Glen home, so I'll be very happy.
Good,
I
good.
don't have to deal with any freeways after this.
Well, again, we appreciate it. I'll give you time to look over the menu.
I'm actually going to talk to the waiter and be annoying, but I pretty much know what I'm going to do.
What do you like to? What kind of wines do you like?
I'm generally a big red fan myself.
No,
Yeah.
all girls are white.
You know, I think what it is I justify the red because it has health benefits, where the white is purely pleasure. So I kind of tip it, but I'll go for anything. And white's cold, so and it's 90 degrees outside. So whatever you like.
Well, I
have no
love red,
preference.
but I was for sure thinking you
How
were
are
white.
you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Is ice water okay to start?
I swear to be fabulous.
Wonderful. Do you need iced tea or anything besides water?
Just the water.
Thank you.
Do you still have the wine menu?
They took it.
Did they take it?
No, wait, no. Yeah, that's your folder. They took it.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'm glad we're finally able to connect. I know it's been difficult.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Going on.
This is actually. I've been.
Could we get?
talking for a
Excuse me.
whole
Could we
2
get the wine menu again? I think we lost it.
Was it a good time for you?
Yeah, I've actually been in LA for almost 2 weeks. So
Very good.
I'm leaving again on Monday. So.
Oh wow.
So I
Thank
want to
you.
pick your brain and make the time as productive as possible. So how much time do you have? I want to make sure we're not
I have a meeting at 4. So
at 4. And
yeah.
how long would it take you to get there?
I'm going to go over Beverly Glen. So if we're done by 3 at the latest, I should be fine.
Okay, good. So I have nothing. So make sure we're
Yeah, I don't know what you guys have planned, but I think that should be plenty
picking
of time.
picking your brain, and having a glass of wine.
All right.
I'm going to take a cup.
What are you guys having?
Well,
For
I was.
food?
What did you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just. You mean for what to eat? Yeah. I don't know. Do you know? I think I like the look of the salmon
I'm
with the
having
cherry
a
tomato and the
Chinese
basil.
chicken salad. I thought you were talking
well, then
about
it's
wine.
totally whites. It has to be whites.
It does not have to be. That
but
is
it
such
does.
an old no.
It does. We
No.
could do a rosé as well. I don't know if you guys like rosé, but I'm gonna let them pick. I'm based on what we're eating. I like to do it that way, so it works for everybody.
I am not that picky. I'll drink anything, I think, but I like
Well,
your
it's
idea
Friday.
about red.
Yes.
You can justify it, right?
Of course. It has health benefits. It has resveratrol. It's not present in white wine.
If it's a good red wine.
Yes.
The cheaper ones, it's mostly coloring, from what I hear.
Yes. Well, if it's done well and made well, it has health benefits. That's my
You could tell she's
that's my line.
studying this. So, the main thing, not the main thing, but I suppose the first is I'd really like to be able to connect with people that I feel they don't know we're out there. They don't know there's this opportunity. And that can be a little touchy. I think for them more than us, but I want to be delicate to any reservations or...
Yeah, I don't think it's a reservations issue so much as a perception issue.
Perception, yes.
because I think every provider has had patients who want to donate their tissue, and they absolutely want to accommodate them. They just want to do it in a way that is not perceived as this clinic is selling tissue, this clinic is making money off of this, that. So, I know in the Planned Parenthood world, for example, they're very, very sensitive to that. And before an affiliate is going to do that, they need to, obviously they're not, some might do it for free, but they want to come to a number that it doesn't look like they're making money. They want to come to a number that looks like it is a reasonable number for the effort that is allotted on their part. I think for private providers or private clinics, you'll have much less of a problem with that.
Okay. I think we're ready.
Is everything there?
I wanted the
Chicken salad? Of course. And for you?
I'm going to be difficult. Can I do the 2 first courses from the Daleiden menu and just do that as
Of
my...
course. It's not difficult. Do you want them at the same time?
Yes.
You got it.
Thank you.
For you, sir?
If I could have the king salmon with squash, cherry tomato, and basil,
Is
please.
medium a good temperature on the salmon?
Yeah.
You got it.
And then we were hoping someone would be able to pick wine that would work
Of
for all
course.
of us.
Yeah. Do you want to do a bottle to share?
Yes.
Of course.
Thank
We can
you.
definitely make that happen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so when you are or the affiliate is determining what that is monetary,
Yes.
so that it doesn't raise any question of this is what it's about. This is the main. What price range would you?
I'm going to throw a number out. I would say it's probably anywhere from $30 to $100, depending on the facility and what's involved. And it just has to do with space issues. Are you sending someone there that's going to be doing everything, or is their staff going to be doing it? What exactly are they going to be doing? Is there shipping involved? Is somebody coming to pick it up? So, I think everybody just wants it to. It's really just about if anyone were ever to ask them, well, what do you do for this $60? How can you justify that? Or are you basically just doing something completely egregious that you should be doing for free? So it just needs to be justifiable. And we have 67 affiliates. They all have very different practice environments. They all have very different staff. And so
with
that number.
Did you say 67?
67.
Okay, so of that number,
Yes.
how much would personality of the personnel in there would play into it as far as how we're speaking to them?
And I think for affiliates, the end of the day, they're a nonprofit. They just don't want to. They want to break even, and if they can do a little better than break even and do so in a way that seems reasonable, they're happy to do that. But really, their bottom line is they want to break even. Every penny they save is just pennies they give to another patient.
Exactly.
To provide a service that patient
Because
can
of
get
the loss,
otherwise.
I'm sure, in other areas. So-
Exactly. So, I don't know what you're thinking of in terms of range. If you're thinking about just California, if you're thinking about the West Coast, if you're thinking about bigger regions.
Right now, we're obviously right here in Norwalk. Would love
To establish locally, I think, is the kind of the primary concern. To have to at least to be sourced to be established with a collection site for fetal tissue locally, and then ultimately, I think what I would like to see happen, which would be something very different as far as the different procurement organizations that exist right now. For example, STEM Express, they cater to researchers all across the country, but they're sourcing all of their material from just Northern California.
Exactly.
But when we're talking about stem cell research, cell viability and the amount of time that we're actually looking at from extraction to getting it into the laboratory is critical.
Yes.
So ideally, if what we could provide is to be able to source as locally as possible to where a given research client is, that would be really a huge competitive advantage for us, I think. And also, I mean, and that's something that I think researchers would want. That would be very, that would facilitate the whole thing a lot better.
Okay, and then what gestational age range are you thinking? When can you start? Because
when can we
I've
start?
worked with people that start collecting at 9 weeks, and I've had others who really want the higher gestational.
And there's times depending on the specific project that people want. Pancreas at 9 weeks, 10 weeks. It's from my perspective, I think it's not going to be reasonable to be collecting at a site that does not have the capability to go farther up into the second trimester. It doesn't mean that the facility needs to go all the way to 24 weeks every time.
Right.
But to be able to at least say we can definitely do between 12 and 16, 12 and probably 12 and 18, I think would be better, because a lot that's kind of for the protocols that require later gestational tissue. 18 weeks is kind of like the lowest range. They're saying like 18 to 20, 18 to 24 for certain things. So if we can get up to 18, I think that would make it worth it, basically, to be operating at that site.
Okay, and so then we have some affiliates that use digoxin or some other feticide, so that would basically limit it. So in general, you're probably going to be able to get to 20 weeks. It's going to be very unusual to get a patient that's above 20 weeks. I would say at the Planned Parenthood affiliates in California.
Yeah.
The affiliate in New York doesn't use digoxin at all.
Not at all.
There's like a culture war on feticide. There's people on the West Coast seem to really prefer feticide. People on the East Coast seem to not like feticide. Same. People have their styles.
Eleanor Dry was telling me that they did not use it at UCSF, though.
Yes, that's non-Planned Parenthood. Eleanor hates misoprostol and digoxin. That's Eleanor.
So that's just a personal. That's okay.
It's a data poor zone. I wouldn't say it's a data free zone. There is some limited data, and it's up to interpretation as to what you think of that data. I think it also, again, has to do with model of practice delivery. Eleanor's in a hospital where they can hold on to patients all day long if they need, even overnight. In outpatient clinics, I think people are trying to do so in a much more efficient way. So, but in general, I will say that my parent affiliate, you're probably going to go up to 20, and then at 20 and above, you get feticide. So, but there are 3 affiliates in California right now that go to 20 weeks. The other thing is, have you been speaking with Family Planning Associates at all in California?
I was told that FPMG, right, family, it's the same thing. I was told that they start digging at 13 weeks once they get into the second term. That's not true.
Not at all. I know their medical director. I can connect you with their medical director.
Okay.
That's just not the case.
Wow. No, because I was shocked when I heard that. I thought, wow, well, there goes that one out the window. Okay.
Do you have her name?
Yeah, her name is Rachel Stewart.
Okay.
Rachel Stewart.
STEWARD. I'll connect you all via email.
Yeah, that would be excellent. I know that we had spoken a couple of times about the Orange County affiliate, which would be, I think, is literally the closest to us right now.
Yeah, and I reached out to their medical director, and they're working with someone, and I don't know who it is.
You don't know who it is?
But they're just not interested in talking to anyone else at this point. I don't know what's going on in the San Diego and Riverside County affiliate. Orange is Orange and San Bernardino. San Diego, and Riverside. And then in LA, there's the affiliate in Pasadena.
How far do they go?
I think they probably only go to 14 weeks.
That's not really.
LA is working with a partner.
Novogenics, you told me.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. You don't know for sure, I guess, or you know.
I know the people. I don't know. I mean, I know the staff. I've never actually asked, to be honest, because that's a decision that's just not made by me. But it's an established relationship. I don't imagine anything's going to change in the short term. Which is why I think Family Planning Associates is an option, because I mean, they go all the way to Bakersfield and all the way as far as to Orange County, so you have a pretty broad range. They definitely go to 18 weeks, and at some sites a little higher than 18 weeks, but that's kind of the case-by-case
We're going to
basis.
do a bottle of our Chateauneuf Depop, because it's not going to be too full, but it's going to be full enough and acidic enough, because everybody's got something a little bit rich with theirs. Like the salmon itself is rich, the avocado dressing, and the gorgonzola. So it's got just a little pepper to it as well, but it's not going to be too overwhelming anyway. I think it can go well with all three. Thank you.
When we were saying the $30 to $100 price, that's per specimen that we're talking
Per
about, right?
specimen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what does per specimen mean for Planned Parenthood? Is that you guys consider that a discrete sample?
One patient. And then again, there's different steps involved too, right? Because then who's going to consent the patient to donate their tissue? If that's staff time that gets figured into it, as opposed to if there's somebody who's there and the staff just flag interested or eligible patients and somebody else does the work. But it's basically for individual patients.
Okay.
So if you end up shipping 4 different specimens for one patient, it's a per patient.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Is if we can take kidney, liver, thymus, and say bone marrow.
Yeah.
It's
that's
not
still all just one.
Okay. Yeah. Because to us, when we charge, that's 4 specimens for us to
Yeah,
that's 4 specimens to a researcher,
and that's
to
basically the way that they do their work, right? The way that they do their work is the way they can budget is by the amount of time they spend with one patient processing one bunch of tissue. They handle the tissue. They do everything they do, in that way. So.
Got it.
It's very unexpected to be having wine so early in the day. So. My 4 o'clock call, thankfully I'm just listening. I'm not presenting anything at 4. Very nice, thank you. And I'm done seeing patients for the day, so that's also good.
I hear a lot of justifications on Fridays when people start
I bet. I'm like,
hey, it's okay.
So early.
I'm so Scotch-Irish.
My husband, there's always an excuse. It's Friday, it's a holiday, I did this today, I did that today. 10 o'clock in the morning. It's 100 degrees out, it's nothing better than a cold drink. He's got an excuse for everything. Thank you.
He has an excuse for everything.
Everything, yes.
What does he do?
He is locations for television and film.
Okay. Well,
So he works on a different schedule anyway. But yeah, so it's really that's the way, and I pretty much guess that's, again, it depends. I mean, if you're expecting somebody to process and package, identify tissue and package it them for you and do it for you, it's going to be higher at the higher end of the range. It's just, in all cases, it's really going to be about staff time. Because that's the only cost to the affiliate. And then if you want space, like for example, it's Novogenics is at PPFA. They have a corner of the lab, and they set up and they come in with all their coolers and they handle all the tissue and everything, but they're basically taking up space. So I'm sure the affiliate considers that when they come up with that reasonable. But I don't think anybody's going to come up with a crazy number because they're all very sensitive to this too. And at the end of the day, they want to offer the service because patients ask about it.
I think that's what's most important to me with the patient and how can we serve them and how can we make just the whole experience. This is just my passion for patients. So, can you give me an idea of what is that like for the patient? I get them on the other end after, but doing that, if there's some way that this can be presented in a delicate way that they're seeing
Yeah, there are obviously the patients who come in who are asking about it from the start, which they're just very easy to talk about. But the others, honestly, there's not going to be one thing that works for every patient because every patient experiences a whole wide range of emotions about the experience in general, and so you don't know where they're coming at from there. But I think every one of them is happy to know that there's a possibility for them to do this extra bit of good in what they do. And I think the patients respond most to knowing the types of outcomes that it might contribute to. So for example, they see Parkinson's research, Alzheimer's research, things like that. I think most of these patients have some experience with one of these conditions or another. I think the ones that come in asking have already had the experience, which is why they come in asking. But I actually think it's an easier conversation to have than just consenting them for the procedure in general, because at this point, I think it's more important when you have the conversation. And I think a lot of people feel very strongly that the conversation shouldn't be had until after they've made their decision to terminate, they know how far along they are, they know what's going to happen, and then when all of that is said and done, and they've had time to kind of let that sink in, then to basically say, now this is how we normally handle the tissue. But if you would be interested, there's another opportunity to contribute to research, contribute to science, donate your tissue. Most patients, like I said, are very, very motivated. I haven't really seen very many patients that say no. I was in the OR yesterday, and we had, I'd say, 18 patients. Probably half of them were either got digoxin or were under 18, and the rest of them all donated their tissue. So I don't think it's a difficult conversation to have, because I think the difficult stuff has already happened. They're kind of prepped for this, and if anything, this is almost a pleasant surprise in a way.
Yes.
You've been through the tough stuff. You made this difficult decision. Now there's one more opportunity for you, to think about, and I think they appreciate it.
So that's.
And you're even saying you think it's better if the conversation can happen, the earlier the better.
Well, I mean, we like, there's always concerns too about kind of coercion, so you always want to make sure that they've made their decision to actually have the procedure, and then before you start adding on other things. Anytime we do any research, and Planned Parenthood has very strict protocols around if we're doing a research study in general, when the different points of the consent happen. This doesn't really fall into the research bucket because it's not a specific protocol, it's not a specific project, so they're not consented for a specific protocol, it doesn't go to an IRB, but yet there's certain principles we still think it's most ethical to follow. And that is really, as I mentioned, to just, to make sure that they've made their decision, they're comfortable with their decision, and then to say, okay, well, now that you've passed that point in the process, there's one other opportunity we wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
Would it ever, and I'm in an area that I'm not familiar with, so I don't even know how to phrase it. If there is certain type of probably birth or with the procedure.
So that's a whole other issue, and that's kind of an ethical issue too. Ideally, you shouldn't do the procedure in any other way. You should always do the procedure the same. And that's what the providers try to do. They're not going to treat these patients any differently than they would any other patient. Just the disposition of the tissue at the end of the case is different.
So would that not be something that I'm thinking about specific requests that we've had from our researchers. So would obviously 20, 21 weeks. I'm imagining, well, I don't know, I'm imagining it would take longer. Does the patient know that? Are they willing to go through that?
What will take longer?
Just the procedure.
Well, so I guess cell viability is a big concern for them for some of this stuff, right? And so intactness of the specimens is a pretty big deal. Thank you.
So that's where we kind of get into an ethical situation, because I think what most providers don't want to have to do. Thank you. They don't want to. In terms of the steps in the preparation of getting them to the actual procedure, if you really want an intact specimen, the more dilution you have, the better.
Right.
Is the clinic going to, put in another set of laminae or do something different? I think they prefer not to. And so, for example, what I'm dealing with now is if I know what they're looking for, I'll just keep them in the back of my mind and try to at least keep that part intact. But I generally don't do extra dilation. We won't put another set of laminae or add an extra day. That's going to add a significant cost of expense to everybody. I mean, basically, if you need to put in another set of laminae, you should come back another day. If you provide procedures in enough days in a row that you can do that, that's a whole other consideration. And in general, I'd say most people, unless there's a specific research protocol that's been IRB approved, try to avoid that.
But that's probably just not
But
that.
you're saying on the, or sorry, I don't want to. On the researcher side,
Yes.
if their IRB has signed off on what they want to, how they want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, what I mean is, in general, the standard protocol should apply. So in general, the patient is seen the day before, they receive, the goal is to get a minimum number of laminaria, and that's it. And once they reach, if they get what they think is a reasonable number of laminaria, the patient goes home, they come back the next day for their procedure. They get misoprostol for the same amount of time as everybody else. Some patients are just not going to have it. Some patients are going to respond very well to the same preparation. Some aren't. I don't think that there are a lot of providers who have the opportunity to say, well, they're not really that dilated, so let's put another set and do the case later. Their schedules just don't work that way. And kind of ethically, I don't think they want to do that. I think they basically want to treat the patient as they would any other. And again, it's just the disposition of the tissue. So, every patient that consents and wants to participate doesn't always yield to the tissue that you're looking for. If it were to go beyond that, if you were to propose that patients are treated in a different way, specifically to maintain, then it opens a whole new avenue. And I think that there's a different consent that's involved.
A different consent. So if the patient was someone who was very happy to knowing where it was going and why, would the treatment, would you have more treatment?
You probably would, but they would have to be consented differently, right? Because ideally, the procedure that they were consented for, they're not going to have the same procedure everybody else has, right? The way it's described in their consent form is different. Right now, when they're consenting to tissue donation, they're just consenting to what happens to the tissue after the procedure is done. They would have to have an extra level of consent that would basically say, I understand that this means that my procedure may take an extra day, or I might be here extra hours, and then I consent to all that stuff. Yeah. So, I think it adds a complexity both on the level of the patient in the consent process, but also on the staff and the flow of the affiliate to actually accomplish what they're setting out to do.
So it sounds like it's more something that you had in the back of your mind and it just presented itself.
Yes. Okay. So if somebody's in clinic and there's something that's specific that they're trying to collect, I'll keep that in the back of my mind. But I'm not going to say, no, I'm not going to do this case now. There's not enough dilation to do that. We're going to do the best we can with the situation that we have. And like I said, it's just a kind of a consent issue. The idea is they're now getting they're not getting standard care like everyone else.
But from our end, I just see the consent issue, the staffing, the time.
Yes.
Well, that's good to hear.
What would you say is the degree of a difference, I guess, you can make if you have it in the back of your mind that we need liver and we'd prefer, an actual liver, not a bunch of shredded up, or especially brain is where it's actually really a big issue. Hemispheres need to be intact. It's a big deal with neural tissue and the progenitors because those are particularly fragile. If you've got that in the back of your mind, if you're aware of that, technically, how much of a difference can that actually make if you know what's expected or what we need versus.
It makes a huge difference. I'd say a lot of people want liver, and for that reason, most providers will do this case under ultrasound guidance, so they'll know where they're putting their forceps. Kind of rate-limiting step of the procedure is calvarium. Calvarium, the head is basically the biggest part. Most of the other stuff can come out intact.
Right.
It's very rare to have a patient that doesn't have enough dilation to evacuate all the other
to bring the body cavity out intact and all that.
So then you're just kind of cognizant of where you put your graspers. You try to intentionally go above and below the thorax so that, we've been very good at getting hard, long liver because we know that, so I'm not going to crush that part. I'm going to basically crush below, I'm going to crush above, and I'm going to see if I can get it intact. And with the calvarium, in general, some people will actually try to change the presentation so that it's not vertex, because when it's a vertex presentation, you never have enough dilation at the beginning of the case unless you have a real huge amount of dilation to deliver an intact calvarium. So if you do it starting from the breech presentation, there's dilation that happens as the case goes on, and often the last you can evacuate an intact calvarium at the end. So I mean, there are certainly steps that can be taken.
So they can convert to breech, for example, at the start of the...
Exactly.
Excellent.
Under ultrasound guidance, they can just change the presentation.
Okay.
So, the preparation and everything will be exactly the same as everybody else. It's just the order of the removal of the products that is different. And most people see that as not different.
No, because we're not talking about, like, it needs to be a hysterotomy and, like, something like crazy like that in order to, I was thinking there was probably an easier solution to this problem.
Yeah. And we've been pretty successful with that.
Yeah.
I'd say.
So yesterday was a clinic day. For example, like, what did you procure?
I asked her at the beginning of the day what she wanted. Yesterday she's been at, a lot of people want intact hearts these days because they're looking for specific nodes. AV nodes, SA. I was like, wow, I didn't even know. Good for them. Yesterday was the first time she said people wanted lungs. And then, like I said, always as many intact livers as possible. People just want
livers.
Some people want lower extremities too, which that's simple. I mean, that's easy. I don't know what they're doing with it. I guess they want muscle. But,
a dime a dozen.
But I think it's good to have so this is kind of another consideration to make, is when you do partner with a clinic, you're probably partnering with the manager or the owner or the director. You're not so much having a relationship with the providers, but I think it helps to have a relationship with the provider, because if you do, you can have this conversation with them.
Exactly.
You can say, this is what this is what we're looking for today, and they're more apt to. I get in the back of their mind. Absolutely. Of course, I want to help. I'd rather have this actually be used for something. So I think just as much as the patients, the providers absolutely want to help.
Exactly. And if it's something as simple as just converting to converting the presentation, that doesn't require a separate consent. It's not a. Does that make the procedure take much longer? Like, is that another step for the provider? Or?
It's just what you grab first. No, it doesn't make anything any different. The other consideration I think you guys need to make is who does training.
Right.
Because when they do training, then you're basically guaranteed to not get anything.
You mean when it's a provider who's doing training?
When there's a trainee who's basically doing the procedure, it comes out of the valve, you're not going to get anything intact. So, what we did for a while, and I think it worked pretty well, is if there was a trainee, I would just basically say, any research case, I'm going to do. And as you get better, I'll let you do more of those cases, but we really need to try to do this intact.
So for example, then you did all of the procurement cases yesterday.
I didn't have a trainee yesterday.
Oh, you didn't have training yesterday.
July, they're just starting. So, so they probably won't come until
So when you said training, actually, I thought you meant tissue training for clinicians, because that's something that we should talk about. So insofar as that impacts the contractual relationship that we would have with a facility or with an affiliate, does it tend to be more one way than the other? Are there many affiliates that have staff that have tissue training? They know how to handle it. They know what to do with it. They prefer to have their own people do it, or because we've been imagining that we would be sending techs of our own in, similar to the Novogenic situation that you have right now.
I would say, barring some bizarre space issue, because some places just really have very, very limited space, most people will be happy to do as little for you as possible. The more you can do for them, the easier it is. And that includes consenting the patients.
Right, because I was imagining we would be doing consent as well.
That's probably the biggest sticking point. One more thing my staff needs to talk about. They only have so many minutes to talk to the patients. So you say, we're coming to do the consenting. We're going to do all the tissue. I don't know who would say no, to be honest. I really don't.
That's really what they want to hear.
That's what they want to hear. They want to basically say, other than taking up a little of your space, this is going to be as no impact as possible on you, on your flow. you're going to need a room, so that when the patient's ready to be consented and stuff. So you're going to need space in the lab. You're going to need a place to do the consent. That's it. Otherwise, no footprints behind. They're going to be happy. There are affiliates that have been doing this for so long and have staff that are so good at identifying tissue. They may just say, it's something that I think my staff could do. That's going to be the minority.
Yeah.
Especially because most, they know how to identify some stuff. They probably don't know how to identify what.
Biliary tree.
Exactly. They're looking for basically all of the limbs, the thorax, the head, the placenta. We've got it all. That's their only concern in the lab right now.
Yeah.
How long right now, average, are
I would say they probably have 10 minutes.
Per patient.
Per patient. And that also includes contraceptive counseling and a whole bunch of other stuff. So.
That's all pre-procedure. That's all pre-op.
And they have room, that's something that's already there, a space for that.
The layout of the actual clinic usually has counseling rooms and procedure rooms. So yeah, those are just counseling rooms, which are like, a desk and a chair. And then the procedure rooms.
Yeah. So, certainly I'm not an expert on your clinic flow, and I don't presume to know where we would fit in best in the process. But what I know that we've done for other practices, like for example the cosmetic surgery centers we work with, and those if we have just like a clinic float, so our tech kind of acts as a float, and is just kind of with their clipboard and can mark down the interested patients ahead of time to just try to facilitate that. I don't know if that's something, if that would help or hinder your process.
No, I think that's how it works with a lot of the research studies they do as well.
Okay.
Is they just kind of identify who's interested at the beginning of the day, or who's a candidate, and ask them if they're interested.
Yeah. And so that way
do with
streamline the
cosmetic
process.
centers.
So that's where we get a lot of the adipose tissue, because that is a very rich source of multipotent and pluripotent stem cells.
The private surgical center that I work with in Calabasas, where I was this morning, was tons of plastics. There were 6 canisters of fat when I got there.
Wow.
So happens if you're looking for more cosmetic releases.
Yeah. It's not the sexiest thing to work with, but it's
No, but it works.
and they pay for it, so
Yeah. No, exactly.
it's a good way to start out. As you can imagine, the jokes are kind of unending with dealing with that.
I bet.
Yeah. Let's see here. So you spoke with the medical director of the Orange affiliate, and they have an organization already, not interested in changing. Do you know anything more about what particularly they're really satisfied with in that relationship, like that we can emulate, or
I didn't probe. I
do
just
better
asked if
than?
they were interested. They said they were working with someone. I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
I know that years ago there was somebody based in Irvine that they had been working with, and then they stopped for a while, so I don't know if they started again.
And was that situation or this one right now? Is that a procurement organization they're working with, or it might be just a direct laboratory?
That I do not know.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I'm just trying to think of our affiliates up and down the West Coast.
Right.
So like I said, San Diego Riverside, I didn't ask.
I know that from what I understand, ABR is in pretty tight with San Diego.
Okay.
ABR.
Well, I'm actually going to be having drinks with their medical director next week, so I can ask.
Oh, at San Diego. Okay. Yeah. That would be good. I mean, we were talking about it, and if we have, if we're looking farther afield than just locally right here, it probably makes most sense to kind of be looking at that swath of, southwestern United States moving east. I mean, ideally we could just be going north, but Northern California is kind of dominated by Stem Express right now.
Yeah.
Whether or not that'll continue to be the case is kind of an open question, from what I understand of them, but it looks like it's better to go east at this one. That's more open territory right now.
So I mean, where are you?
So we're looking at then I guess we're looking at Arizona, New Mexico, and there's a
There's a law in Arizona, so they only the law is 20. It was 18, and I think it has to stay, but it might go back. But so Arizona's definitely.
But they do go to 20 in Arizona.
They do.
Because that's as good as we would be getting in Orange anyway, right? Because they start ditching
I'm
it
sure they would
at
be
20.
interested.
So in Arizona, can
And
we?
do you know who is there that we could?
Their medical director, yeah, or their patient services person, yeah.
Okay.
How many surgical locations do they have?
They only have 2 locations.
They have 2.
They used to be 2 separate affiliates, so there used to be
Uh-huh.
Northern Arizona and Southern Arizona, and they merged. So I think it's Phoenix and Tucson are basically the 2 sites.
Those
They
are
both
big
have
cities,
good
though. So
airports.
do they have? I imagine if those are the only 2 clinics, they probably have pretty good volume then.
You know, I can't tell you.
Now they do off the top of your head the
Off the top of my head, I
numbers
don't
for every
know,
affiliate.
but they don't seem to. I think they have pretty good volume. Great, thank you.
Very good, thank you.
But yeah, I think Arizona's good, and they definitely have the they go as far as the state will allow them to go.
Uh-huh. Are they? Do they have any previous experience with procurement or?
No, and they have a fairly new medical director also.
Uh-huh.
But their CEO is very business savvy, and like I said, I can't imagine he wouldn't be interested.
Would that be a good person to contact, or is that?
You got to talk directly to the CEO as opposed to.
I'll reach out to the CEO, and they have 2 medical directors, one who just handles primary care and one who handles all the surgical services. So I'll reach out to both of them and ask them who's the best person to connect you with.
Okay.
That would be good. I did see online that the Gulf Coast affiliate as well already does donation services, or already
They do
does
a
tissue
ton of
donation.
research, so I wouldn't be surprised if what they're doing.
So then, and I don't know if that's in conjunction with a tissue procurement organization, or if they work directly with researchers, or if there's like if they've already got it covered and there would be no need for us. But
I don't know. I can ask. They of all of the affiliates, they have the largest research program. They have a multi-million-dollar budget. They've been doing research for a very, very long time. So
Yeah.
I think they're very well connected.
Uh-huh.
I'll ask.
That would, yeah, because the research client community in Texas is also that's kind of a hotbed. Not so much as California or Wisconsin, for example, but but in terms of the regions of client base that we're looking at, it's basically California, Wisconsin, and then North Carolina and Texas are kind of the.
Well, North Carolina.
So.
They don't have your gestational age.
Is there anywhere apart from New York? Is there anywhere else on the East Coast that's within that area? Because if we could open up that Research Triangle area of North Carolina, which is like the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area, that's a huge market.
We have an affiliate in Orlando that goes to 20 weeks right now. I'm pretty sure we have several affiliates in New York that aren't just New York City that go to at least 18. And I think I have to see, the Southern New England affiliate, which is Connecticut, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And then there's League of Massachusetts, which is huge. It's huge, but they also have a very well-developed research program. Their medical director for research is in Brigham, so I'm sure whatever they're doing locally.
Yeah.
But it's worth reaching out.
Washington D.C. Are they? I met Dr.
I think they only go to 14 weeks. Jamila Parent is their medical director.
I didn't meet her. I met the man who's also the medical director for NAF, Matt Reeves. We spoke. He mentioned that he was working with them.
I'm pretty sure they only go to first tries right now. I'm not positive.
Okay. No, I know that he and I talked about second trimester, and he indicated that he had a pretty good volume. It was an interesting conversation because he was friends with someone in I think it was Pennsylvania, who was actually a researcher, and so he was like, oh yeah, in the 90s we used to collaborate all the time, and this was a regular thing. It's great, blah blah.
I'm trying to think because I went to that meeting that had pretty much all of the later second trimester providers. And Edgemont, Washington was not there.
Yeah. What kind of did people talk about this kind of stuff there? Was there a good response to it, or what was your impression?
just kind of casually. The meeting had several other purposes, but I'm just trying to think of who was there. And like I said, the Southern New England affiliate was there, the Connecticut, Rhode Island, Gulf Coast was there. Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota, they go to 20 weeks. Middle of the country.
They're within courier distance of Wisconsin, though.
Yes, they are.
Which is
Minnesota and Wisconsin have reciprocity, so.
That might be a good one, actually, because that's sort of what I mean is by sourcing tissue, as locally as possible to a client. Because if we can get it to the point where it's not a matter of FedExing it overnight or deliver something like that, but it's just a matter of somebody carrying it, 2, 3, 4 hour drive. That's kind of the critical what makes a huge difference between us and another another organization.
Now, is Semen Express just located in Northern California? I don't even know.
That's my understanding is that they're based up north and they're
because the affiliate that's based in
I mean they're out of the Sacramento area and Marmonte, the big Marmonte affiliate, and I think whatever other Northern California affiliates they are.
Okay. Yeah, I know that the Shasta Pacific affiliate works with them. I guess Marmonte works with them. And then many years ago, there was just University of Washington. There was a group at University of Washington that reached out directly to.
There's still University of Washington is the that's the NIH official fetal tissue collection service, and they a lot of researchers don't use them, though I'm not sure why. I think it's just because there's kind of a backlog with their cases. It's they were the only one for a long time, and so it's kind of like the pipeline just isn't working properly.
So I guess my question is, are you guys planning on exhibiting at a Planned Parenthood meeting? Because I think
the one that you mentioned in October, I know that Brianna's working on getting that.
Yeah, in Miami.
Right. Yeah. I think we plan to be there. Barring unforeseen circumstances.
Because I think that's a good opportunity. All the medical directors are going to be there. Some of the CEOs are going to be there.
Yeah.
But what you really want to talk to is the surgical services medical directors. So that's a really good opportunity.
And the main things that they're going to want to hear is that we're going to do everything.
Yes. Basically, like I said, there is not a provider out there. I can't imagine. I don't know if you guys have talked to Warren Kern at all. Maybe he doesn't hear. But there's not a provider out there that doesn't want to do this. Everybody just sees it as a way to just add another level of good on top of what they're already doing. And they already feel that what they're doing is very good.
Yeah.
But again, the majority of the providers are either nonprofits like the Planned Parenthood setting or operating on a razor-thin budget. So as low impact as you can be as possible, the better for them.
Right.
I really do think you have a good opportunity with Family Planning Associates in Southern California. Like I said, as soon as I get back to my desk, I'll connect you guys with Rachel. They're expanding their services in a lot of ways. And to my knowledge, you're not working with anybody in Southern California. So I think you've got an opportunity there.
Yeah.
So I want to take another track. We have limited ourselves in our thinking, I think, right now to local and then South, Texas, Arizona. Is there anyone that comes to your mind? So I don't want our limitations to stop. Is there anyone that comes to your mind that, if you were willing to go to this?
Well, the other affiliate in Texas, there's one other. Right now, the laws in Texas are pretty crazy. So there's only 2 affiliates. There's only 7 clinics right now. 5 of them are independent, and 2 of them are Planned Parenthood.
So low volume clinics, probably not.
High volume because there's nowhere else for patients to go.
Texas is a huge state, so I'm going to say that.
Texas is a huge state, and they basically shut down almost every clinic. So there's a woman named Amy, I'm blanking on her last name, Whole Women's Health. I don't know if you spoke to at the last meeting. Amy Hagstrom Miller.
We met some of their providers.
I'm sure you must have. She's got kind of shorter blonde hair, kind of pure-like hair.
We spoke with her, spoke with Carrie, Tara.
Most of the clinics that are in Texas, but then there's Gulf Coast. And like I said, I don't know the details of what they're doing, but I'll find out. And And then there's Greater Texas, which is Dallas and Austin. I don't think they're working with it.
And what's their gestational limit?
20 weeks.
20 weeks. Okay.
So I think that, and again, the affiliates in Texas, I think, even if Gulf Coast is working with someone, I think if you can be creative and come up with another way or a better way.
Right.
Times in Texas are very hard right now. So anything that they, that you can do to just make it a little bit easier for them and a little bit better for everybody, I think get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
So, I'd be happy to introduce you to both of their medical directors.
Yeah.
Paul Fine is Gulf Coast, and Daryl Johnson is Greater Texas.
I'm sorry, could you spell the first one?
Paul Fine, F-I-N-E.
Oh,
very easy. Yeah. He actually trained at USC, so he's been in Texas for many, many, many years. And then Daryl Johnson is the other. But both Greater Texas and Gulf Coast have pretty well-developed structures. They have pretty independent surgical services and kind of research and people that are interested in academics and research. So I think that they're naturals. The one other place that I would consider that you're not thinking about possibly is St. Louis.
Right, Missouri. Yeah, we'd mentioned that. Yeah, I think we mentioned that before.
David Eisenberg is the medical director of the St. Louis region. They do second tries. They have a very extensive collaboration with all kinds of research, and they have a pretty dynamic medical director. His name is David Eisenberg. So I think that's definitely worth your while. That's, just thinking of the map, and if there was some place that was untapped, I would say St. Louis is
yeah. And so, and what's the best way to contact, just for you to connect us by email, or?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll kind of reach out and see if any of these folks are interested. Like I mentioned, they'll all be in Miami in October, every single one of them. And I can guarantee you, even if I didn't connect them, they would come to your table because they're all interested in doing this.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, everybody's looking to do this, but they've only been able to find some very local or very small opportunity to do this. So, if there is an organization that someone is working with already that they can kind of get a recommendation or a connection, I think they'll be very open to that. So I think that's a possibility. And like I said, I just think, the other thing that's a big pet peeve, I think, of many of them is people just kind of don't understand the practice environment, and they don't understand the way that patients flow and how it's going to impact them. So if you can show that you're sensitive to that, that's going to be a breath of fresh air for the most part. And say, we don't want it. We understand that you're time limited. You have your staff. We want to be as low impact on our processes as possible. Just flag the patient who might be interested. Set aside some room for us. We can do the rest. We will handle the tissue, do everything. All we're asking for is your space and your consideration. And I think that.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone would say no.
Yeah.
Everyone's been looking to do this now for about the past year and a half. The affiliates in California have been very lucky because for some reason in California there's no shortage of possibilities, but I would say that's not the case elsewhere. And definitely, I saw STEM Express at the NAF meeting, so I know that they're out there, but I don't even know how the connection with Novogenics was made. Most affiliates don't even know how to reach out. They don't know who to reach out to. They don't know where to make this connection.
Yeah. Has the relationship with Novogenics been for the past year and a half? What is it about the past year and a half?
I don't know how long it's been. I feel like it's been about a year or two. Yeah.
What is it about the past year and a half that all of a sudden everybody's talking about? Is it because of STEM Express and the NorCal affiliates?
I think patients are asking more.
There's more
And so
people are aware. Yeah.
Patients will call up and make an appointment and say, and I'd like to donate my tissue.
Afterwards.
And then the affiliates really feel like, oh wow, I need to figure out a way to get this done. Because patients are talking about, in general, in healthcare, a provider's not going to start to offer a service until there's a demand. And there is a demand. Women know that this is something that they can do.
So that would be something for us to think about. Women speaking out.
Yeah, that's going to be the best money that you spend.
Yes.
Is just word of mouth. It's much better than any ad or anything you could ever do. If you you can get women talking and saying, I want to do this, the providers will then say, wow, I need to do this. This is something that patients think about when they're scheduling an appointment or deciding who to see. Yeah, just a few more drops, thank you.
So, how many affiliates would you say total then are actually working with a fetal tissue procurement organization right
To
now?
my knowledge right now, I only know the California affiliates that are doing this. And you mentioned Gulf Coast. I didn't even know that. So I don't really know what it is they're doing. But the Northern California affiliates and the 3 Southern California affiliates.
Because it seemed like there's kind of a trade-off to me whether to try to focus on affiliates who have some amount of experience doing this, either currently or in the past. But then if it's someone who's currently involved, with an organization, like then there's an issue of competition.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's someone who's never done it before, maybe they're interested, but how much longer is it going to take to actually get started up and just all the.
Yeah, I have to say, I almost feel like California is almost done
Saturated.
in this regard. It is, and the reason it's saturated too is normally, like let's say for example, an affiliate was looking for a lab to work with to do their pap smears or their STD tests. They're going to look for somebody that's going to give them the best service at the lowest price. This is a little bit different. Because they want to do this, but they want to do it in a way that's not going to impact them, and it's much, much less about money. So, I mean, you can call them up and say, I'll give you double the money. They're almost more inclined to say no because it's going to look bad.
Right.
To them, this is not a service they should be making money for. This is something they should just be able to provide for patients in a way that doesn't impact their bottom
And
line.
offsetting their costs. That's all they're.
Yeah, no one's going to see this as a money-making thing. The other reason affiliates see this as a good thing is it's just less tissue that they need to worry about. There's tissue that's taken care of, right? They need to do something with all of that tissue. It's hard to find somebody that wants to do something with that tissue. So the fact that there's somebody that's looking for that tissue is.
And that was the point that we were trying to. I can't remember who it was. Just taking that from them. What?
That is a huge service to them. Yes. I have to say, when this came up on a national level is there are issues with disposal of fetal tissue. Probably the biggest company in the country that does this is Stericycle. Yeah, you can take one. Thank you. Some anti-choice groups got the names and the addresses of the board of directors of the companies and started getting their houses and making them uncomfortable because they were picking up tissue. They started
Oops, sorry about that.
at the houses of the board of directors of a company, a waste management company, basically, that just handles biological waste. And I think that's what kind of started the conversations with affiliates, because they were like, well, what am I supposed to do with my tissue? Right.
Then we went to a session on that.
Yeah, there was a session of that enough because it's a serious issue. I mean, that's a service that affiliates need. So I think some affiliates were looking at it as a way to it's not obviously going to count for everything. Not everybody's eligible. Not everybody's going to donate.
Right.
You're not going to take everything. But that has raised an issue. So, I don't know if this is ridiculously far-fetched, but we'll handle all of your tissue.
Matt Reeves actually had suggested that to us, as a way that might.
If you could figure out a way to do that, can I just tell you, even if there were people that weren't donating, you would have huge business just for taking tissue. People would pay.
Right. I mean, I was. I was about to.
Please take my tissue.
I was about to.
You could just send off what you wanted to send off, but you still have to consent the patients. That's
Right.
But it's just something to keep in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I know. I was about to suggest that. I mean, if it's the situation that, for example, in California, that so let's say that. I don't know, that Novogenics is paying you guys $50 per specimen, and we said, well, we'll do 60. And you're like, well, I don't know, it looks a little sketch.
That makes it look
and
fishy.
then,
Exactly.
and so then we said, well, all right, but Novogenics is only taking they took 5 samples yesterday.
Yeah, we'll take it
so
all.
what if we, if we could take it all, then that's actually the better way to negotiate about
it. That is going to win your business. That's going to win. We'll take all of your tissue at the end of the day. Absolutely.
So we're bartering more about services than about money.
And again, affiliates are not looking to make money by doing this. They're looking to serve their patients and to just make it not impact their bottom line. And if anything, you can make it even better for their bottom line. You give them services in kind instead of money. I think a lot of them would take you up on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would definitely get people to say, I'll give it to you the same
What, we only briefly got into it with Matt. What kind of total volume, like if we're talking like, I don't know, containers or, liters of material, if we, so maybe let's use, yesterday as an example of, there were 18 cases?
18 cases.
18 cases. So for those 18 cases, let's say that it was all just going to be, boxed up or binned up, what kind of a volume of material are we talking about there, quantitatively?
To be on the safe side, let's say 18 liters.
18 liters. So it's like not quite...
Coffee or tea at the moment? Thank you.
How's your headache, by the way?
The wine helps better.
Do you drink caffeine at all?
Yes.
I don't have any caffeine, but caffeine is fabulous for headaches, So caffeine is fabulous for headaches.
One really strong cup in the morning. That's it. So, okay.
Yeah, so if you're having it, try a little caffeine.
Even if it's sinus.
Yeah, it basically what caffeine does is it constricts blood vessels. When you have pressure and all that, it's because things are engorged, they're swollen. You can constrict the blood vessels, there's less pressure everywhere. Caffeine is a drug. People don't realize caffeine is a drug. I can't have caffeine, it does horrible things to my system. But it does wonders for all kinds of congestions and pressure because it basically causes vasoconstriction. Keep that in the back of your head.
It works with pain too.
For sure.
I can remember, I have 3 herniated discs, so pain management and being aware. But it's not about me, my pain.
Yeah. No.
What she needs is stem cells.
There you go. Well, we'll get there.
We will. No, we will. We really will. We ever. We will. So I'm thinking. So 18 liters of material. That's really not a lot.
No.
So normally, how are you guys disposing of it right now when it's not being donated? It goes to Stericycle, or it goes to?
It goes to Stericycle. Yes. And Stericycle, they handle. This is considered pathologic waste. There's pathologic waste and there's biologic waste. And so this, it has to be labeled in a special way and flagged in a special way because apparently, I didn't know this until this whole issue came up. But
Yeah.
apparently, a lot of waste is just steam sterilized and then dumped. But if it's biologic waste, it has to be incinerated. It has to be tagged for incineration. So that adds costs because they only have so many sites that do incineration. They need to make sure it goes to incineration, so on and so forth.
Just wondering.
For everybody. For everybody. And then when you have less players who are willing to do it, there's only one price.
Is there a reason that an affiliate just doesn't have its own incinerator? Like, is that? I mean.
I think it's probably expensive. I think if push came to shove and they had to, they probably will. Affiliates are starting to band together, do certain things, operate labs, for example. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 5 to 10 years there's somebody who does it, and maybe they take on all the business of, but it's business. It's just still business. They're a non-profit. It's not like they have tons of money sitting around to start. You need to spend money to do something like that, and they just don't have the money to spend. And I think they'd rather just spend it taking care of patients.
Yeah.
Which is the right way to spend it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we're not medical doctors, so this is a little out of our field with that, but it would just, I'm surprised that incineration is so expensive, that it's not it would seem like, just burning up, how could that?
Yeah, it's not just that it's so expensive, I get it, especially in California. I don't know, there's emissions issues, there's shipping,
There was a woman from Arkansas who talked about it.
Yeah.
She looked into it. And just
red tape.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Thank you.
There's got to be all kinds of regulations that you can believe because you're probably regulated environmentally, you're regulated by OSHA, you're regulated by the State Department of Health. It's not an easy. Yeah, I said, can you partner with the hospital what's the nearest hospital? They need to do something with their waste. They have surgical specimens and things. What do they do with everything? Eventually somebody will do it. Eventually it will all make sense. But no, to take 18 liters of tissue. I mean, what do you do at the end of the day? I guess you just ship off your tissue now.
Oh, you mean when we have excess?
Yeah.
We don't. I mean, we collect what researchers want. We don't collect. So our tissue procurement really is not based on taking everything and sorting through it. No, we're trying to isolate exactly what's needed and move on. Yeah. So that was my initial response to Matt Reeves. I was like, well, really, we don't want to become another disposal service. We want the stuff that is actually valuable. But yeah.
No, everything just adds another level of complication to it.
Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, that would be a huge sell. Huge sell.
Yeah. More so than being able to, to say we'll do 60 or we'll do 75 per specimen.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm telling you, family planning associates, they may go for the money. Private providers, there are definitely private clinics, and that's why exhibiting at NAF is great. I don't know how they're, it depends on the market. In most markets, their volume is not going to compare to Planned Parenthood's volume. Mm-hmm. We have 40% of the market in the whole country.
40%?
40%.
Wow.
Not that we're trying to, we just do. I mean, we're looking now, moving forward, as access is getting harder and laws are changing, to figure out how we can partner to just make sure everybody has access and it's less. But the way it turns out, if you look at it today, we have 40%, so we're the largest provider, and we're the target.
A little more wine, can we split it between the two of you?
Well, you just pour out what's in the bottle, and if we drink it, we drink it, and if we don't, we don't.
Yeah.
I can throw it away. It'll evaporate. I'm very practical.
It's good. It's a good way to live.
But because of that, we're the target. And because we're the target, we're not looking to make money from doing this. Our goal is to keep access available. And if we do something that makes us a target and that just removes access for everybody.
To be sustainable, essentially. Yeah, and that's kind of intuitively, I think, how we've been feeling about the providers that we want to partner with is, as far as the independence, and not to, I don't want to, I think everyone in this is doing, is doing good work in a really hard situation, and so not to cast aspersions on that. But a lot of the independents have not seemed to have their act together as much as and that's
and
so both in terms
not under the scrutiny that we are.
Right. Well, and just in terms, not only in terms of being able to have a workable relationship, but then also having a sustainable relationship down the road. If we partner with a clinic that goes out of business in a year or 2 years or whatever, that's no good for us.
And that's really the fundamentals too of talking about the cost per specimen. At the end of the day, we just want to keep the doors open, and we don't want to let that jeopardize keeping the doors open. We really just want that to be reasonable for the impact it has on the clinic. This is not something. This is not a revenue stream that affiliates are looking at. This is a way to offer patients a service that they want, do good for the medical community, and still maintain access at the end of the day. That's really where.
And we want to, we want to make sure that we can maintain our access to the stuff, and that's why, and that's where the and that's where the specimen fees come in with us. Is we want to make sure that we can establish a relationship and keep it, and whatever is the best way to.
We're not getting into policies. Making sure we have a secure access to a high volume.
Absolutely. So, PPLA, for example, probably about 3,000 second tries, 12,000 total. But what you're going to see, and what you're going to see more and more, is the Planned Parenthood affiliates who do go to 20 weeks, their volume is just going to go up. It's not going down, because what's happening is the laws and the legal environment is not shutting us down. They're shutting everybody else down who just doesn't have their act together, because they're just not under the scrutiny that they're under. And there are some groups and some very strong independent providers, but there's only so much independent providers can do to withstand the pressure that they're getting. Which is, like I said, why we're trying to partner together to say, look, we're not going to be able to go to this community, so how can we help you to what can we do for you to keep your doors open? We want everybody to keep their doors open, but we just have a little more, I wouldn't even call it resource, we just have the manpower. We have an extra office. We have people that are doing work on the advocacy front. We try to do everything we can for our affiliates. Still need to do the work on the ground at the end of the day, but we try to take as much burden off of them as we can.
Right.
The same would extend to you. All the burden that you have to take off is just one more thing.
Right.
I would love to find a way to frame this too, and maybe you guys can think about this. It's all about framing.
To frame it for affiliate, you mean publicly? To frame it publicly,
to frame this publicly.
That's the $1 million question.
To get
So you were about to say something. So
I'm trying to, because right now we're in a position where yes, our patients ask about this and they feel that this is important and they feel that they're doing a good thing. But there are a lot of people who think that what we're all doing is bad and they don't want it to happen at all. And, is there a way to continue to frame this? Are there things that we can spotlight the benefits? Because if we can reframe the conversation, it's just a win-win for everybody. More patients will want to do it. More affiliates will want to partner with you. And maybe some of the people who are trying to shut it down on every level will not. I don't know how to do that. If I knew how to do that, I would have done it already.
Yeah.
But you're making me on other things that I do working with people.
Yes.
Sometimes just, it doesn't have to be a public conversation. It can just spread word of mouth, as you said.
But even a public conversation. I mean, a few years ago there was someone in the administration, and I'm blanking on who it was, it'll probably come to me, who was just pushing. When Christopher Reeves was working with, there are lots of people who are trying to elevate this, and I think we just need to find the right champion.
And now that you said that's very similar to a conversation that scientists in the stem cell research in the regenerative medicine area have been having for many years now, ever since it became a political issue, 10 years ago, however long. I was just at ISSCR, International Society for Stem Cell Research. It's like the major meeting. This is my swag from the
for the meeting.
But it's every time they have a session on how do we communicate with the public about what we know technically and what we're doing, and and it's not and I don't think they're as sophisticated as talking about framing and reframing and discourse. It's much more techy and kind of nerdy and technical than that. But it's the same. It's the same kind of problem. And I was at an OC business mixer several months ago, and I was talking with someone who does social media about biotech and about tissue procurement. And he says, well, if you guys want to increase your client base, he says, you need to be taking pictures of what you do and putting it on Instagram.
Oh, no, you don't.
And I said, wait a sec. I said, let me tell you. I know. And get this though. So I say that to him, and he says no. He says because he says there are going to be people who are going to see it. They're going to be grossed out, offended, whatever. He's like, but there's going to be a 15-year-old emo kid who's going to think that liver is the coolest thing ever, and he's going to like it. He's not even a scientist. He thinks it's gross. He likes it because he's a 15-year-old emo kid. He's like, and then his dad sees it, and his dad is a doctor, or his dad is a researcher, and so he knows to go to you or to donate to you. And I said, well, but what if his dad is a pastor?
Yeah.
And,
It happens a lot.
This guy was very, but he doubled down. He said no. He said people are going to throw stones and are going to, they say no matter what, and so you just have to be proud of what you do.
Absolutely.
And know that that's them, not you, and stand up and
I
do
think
it.
that's
So it was a bold vision. I don't know if
it is a bold vision, and the conversation needs to continue. But you're right. I mean, we all need to figure out how do we talk about what we do. I'm proud of what I do. I know you guys are proud of what you do. But are there times where I'm sitting next to someone in an airplane where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to tell this person what I do because I don't know anything about this person, and I have to sit next to this person for the next 4 hours, and it could be the worst 4 hours of my life.
right.
So you don't know. You do have to be a little daring. But I do think that we can figure out a way to talk about this. Look, we kind of come up with the statistics. 4 in 10 women have had an abortion in their lifetime. By the time they're 45, 1 woman in 4 has had an abortion. Everybody knows somebody who's done this. And you want to know something else? Even more than that, I will say, is everybody knows somebody who can benefit from stem cell research.
Yep.
And so we just need to kind of collectively just figure out what the talking points are. But I know that we all want to be strong partners in this for sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to meet with us.
It was worth braving the traffic. Like I said, I mean, I want to see all of this succeed. So, anything that that I can do to make this work for everybody is a good thing.
Would there be a way in the future maybe to if rather than having to deal with all the different affiliates, if there were a way to partner with PPFA directly to get some kind of like pre-clearance or something, so that we have.
So we tried to do this, and at the national office we have a litigation and law department which just really doesn't want us to be the middle people for this issue right now. Because we were approached by STEM Express to do the same thing. One of the Northern California affiliates said, we're working with these people, we love it, we think every affiliate should work with them. And so we had a conversation and we said, what do you think we'll just go out and find all the people that are doing this and present everybody with a menu, and they, at the end of the day they just decided right now it's too touchy an issue for us to be an official middleman. But that,
when you say right now, do they see a future?
right now the way the Supreme Court looks, I don't think it looks very good.
Okay.
If you talk to my litigation and law folks, anything that's going to go to the Supreme Court right now, we are all losers. And there's also there's a cycle, right? There's the time of the year. Anything that's going to be heard by the Supreme Court, we usually know by April. So then after April, it's okay to talk because we don't want to incite anybody to bring anything up to that level. So we're in a pretty crappy time right now. We just heard Hobby Lobby. We knew we were going to lose Hobby Lobby. We knew we were going to lose the buffer zone case. Unless the composition of the Supreme Court changes anytime soon, we don't really want to be raising eyebrows. But I will tell you that behind closed doors, these conversations are happening with the affiliates.
So
and your presence, in the future sometime, yes, this is something we need to continue to have this conversation because this is something we're always reevaluating. And as I mentioned, affiliates want to do this, our patients want to do this, and we just don't feel like it's the right decision at the right time.
Right.
The timing is not right. Hopefully we'll feel better. Maybe we'll feel better after November. Maybe things will look a lot better after November. I'm not so sure. I'm hoping. Otherwise I might move to Canada. I can do my work from Vancouver just as well as I do it from Los Angeles.
I was just there for ICCR. It's a beautiful place.
It is a beautiful place. It is a beautiful place. They have wineries, they have farms, they have local produce, very outdoorsy. We have a lot of snow in the winter, but I'll survive. I'll come down to Southern California to my house. But yeah, we've asked, and it's just not something we can commit to right now. But that doesn't mean that we're not continuing to have these conversations, and we're not continuing to provide opportunities for our affiliates to connect. So I really do. I think that you guys being there in Miami is important, not just for Planned Parenthood, but for all the academic sites. So the forum, the meeting that you would be exhibiting at is a partnership between Planned Parenthood and Society of Family Planning. Society of Family Planning is essentially every training program that trains abortion providers in the country is at that meeting. So this means you're going to have people that are going to be going out and doing this in their private practice. They're going to be going out and doing it in independent clinics, or they're going to be coming to do it with a Planned Parenthood. So with the exception of some of the more cowboyish independent providers who we love and we're trying to support, this is where everybody is. This is a win-win. And it may work on the flip side. There might be people there that want to partner with you to procure tissue for them.
Right, that's what I was thinking when you said academics.
Yeah, so there's going to be people from all of the sites, Pitt, Harvard, name a program, they're going to be there. WashU, OHSU, University of Washington. Georgetown probably has no interest in you because they're Georgetown, but Washington, University of Maryland. We have 23 really strong sites and many, many other sites around the country. So it's a meeting with a lot of academics who really believe in what you do, and I think you'll also make good contacts. You've got Matt, who's got the independent provider side. You've got me, that's got the PP side. And hopefully you can make some strong academic contacts also to kind of keep that moving. A place like UCSF, I don't know that there are many other academic sites that have the volume and the support in UCSF. They're kind of an anomaly.
Yeah.
And a giant.
They are saturated though, as that was the word Dr. Dry used when she said their volume is saturated with being committed to their local researchers right there.
What about Cook County? Have you connected with Shlaisha Patel in Cook County?
Where's Cook County? Is it Chicago?
The largest family planning provider in the Midwest, Cook County Hospital.
Really?
Stroger Hospital.
It's a hospital. It's not an outpatient clinic. It's just
It's a hospital.
And what is it called?
Cook County. Shlaisha Patel is the family planning program director. Put her on my list.
Thank you.
And what's their limit?
It's 24.
24.
20 or 24.
Do they ditch?
Yeah, they did.
How late?
20. Most people
20.
start
Most people do.
Most people start 20 or 22.
So that's not a PPFA national policy though, right?
Because PPFA national policy.
Yeah, if New York is not using it, then
The PPFA national policy is you must comply with the federal abortion ban. There are a variety of ways to do that. In fact, you can't do it before 20 weeks. And there are affiliates that start at 20, there are affiliates that start at 22, and there are affiliates that don't use it at all. New York City doesn't do it at all. I don't know if you've spoken to them.
no, I haven't spoken to them. New York
City
always,
is what PPLA is on the West Coast, New York City is on the East Coast. They don't use it. So you would have up to 24 weeks. The other thing is their volume is probably as big, if not bigger. They do procedures Tuesday through Saturday.
Yeah.
And this is the type of setting where they'll check to see what the dilation is. If it's not enough, they'll do another set and have to come back the next day because they do it 4 or 5 days in a row. So there you have probably the best opportunity outside of UCSF to get those larger cases. But Cook County is fabulous in the Midwest and it's central, Chicago. You got 2 airports.
Right.
Plenty of opportunities there.
Yeah. I know that we want to get established somewhere local initially just to have that. It's just more stable, it's kind of a sustainability issue.
I'm just trying to think of a way to get good volume in California.
Right. I would love to. If we could sit down and have the same conversation with Orange County, or I don't know if PP Orange is more tied to their group or PPLA is more tied to Novogenics, who has the stronger.
I don't think anybody's tied to anybody.
Yeah.
I think the problem with PPLA right now is they're still going through leadership change.
Oh, really?
So I don't think anything's going to change anytime soon.
You guys just aren't in a position to do those kinds of.
We have an interim medical director. We don't have an ongoing medical director right now, and so they're just not in the position to make any big shifts until a new senior management is kind of settled in. I'll definitely let you know when there's a new medical director that's on board. Orange, I just don't know. I get the feeling that they were like, we're good, so I just didn't push it. But
can you find out who the company is that they're working with? Because especially if it's not a procurement organization, but it's just a biotech lab that happens in Orange County.
Somebody in Irvine.
Then because there's a lot of those in Irvine. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No. I'll ask them, but and I'll also push Jennifer Russo to your table.
Who
She's
is
their
that?
medical director at Orange
Jennifer
County.
Russo.
I'll make sure she goes. You guys connect with her.
Because that's
have the conversation. That she could probably share much more than I have any idea. I can ask her what I can ask her, but I don't know what I'm asking her about.
Because that's that makes a huge difference if they're only just there's a particular lab local that they're working with. I'm sure that lab doesn't have the kind of volume where they need all of their second try cases, every time. I would be surprised unless it's UC Irvine that they're working with, directly.
No, I don't even know. And like I said, the Novogenics thing came about before. They've had 3 medical directors since the last medical director resigned, and she set that up, and just nothing has been stable enough to even evaluate that relationship. They're just kind of
3 medical directors. That's not normal.
No, that's not normal. There's been some changes in the senior management. One medical director retired, and then after she retired, they just haven't been able to find a good fit yet.
Okay. So building a relationship with someone and then they're...
I just don't feel like there's the opportunity right now because everything's so transient that until I get the feeling that we've got something with sticking power, it's not worth your while. But I do feel like Family Planning Associates has some possibilities. Matter of fact, I'm going to text her right now
Text her.
to ask about the ditch question because I can't believe that that's true.
I was shocked when I heard it. I thought, well, you know, there goes that opportunity.
I don't think they do ditch. I'm going to double check right now. I don't even think they do it at all.
Yeah, I thought to myself, they must be really concerned about, like, I don't know, sheriff in Bakersfield or something.
Yeah, right? I would be shocked. And she's usually pretty quick, but she might be with patients, but let's see. Of course. Oh, I just got an answer.
Oh, really?
They don't do ditch until 18.6.
Until 18.6. Can you ask her if they're working with anyone right now?
Look what it says. Are you working with any? In exact actual words.
Read my mind.
I don't know.
Is she in the area? Does she want to come have a drink with us right now?
She's downtown. She's in Koreatown, actually.
Interesting.
Is where their headquarters is. I trained her.
Oh, wow. So you think FPA is a good provider in your book? They're legit. They're not flaky like the independent provider.
Novogenics is very little potatoes. I mean, I feel like it's really Doogie Howser basically runs the company. He's a doc. I don't know how he got.
Wait, you're talking about Novogenics or FPA? Oh, I was asking about FPA.
FPA is totally worth working with their medical director. For many years, I was apprehensive about FPA because it was basically just kind of like a for-profit organization. They have a medical director who's really they're offering prenatal care now. They're really rounding themselves out. They're going to become quite a competitor to Planned Parenthood in California.
Friendly competition.
I'm not worried about it. They're trying to really to strengthen themselves and be a long-time player in the community, and I think it's worth the collaboration.
Almost like Kaiser, I guess, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So if we can offer to a given affiliate that we'll take care of everything, the consenting, the collection, we don't even need an extra room. We really just need 3 feet of space in the path lab in the back with a light and everything to do that.
Which we already have set up. You just have to.
Right. Is that are there affiliates that would just donate the tissue for free, or?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the guidance is this is not something you should be making an exorbitant amount of money on. So
is that the PPFA guidance? Or?
Yes. Our goal, like I said, is to give patients the option without impacting our bottom line. The messaging is this should not be seen as some new revenue stream because that is not what it is.
That seems like it would be, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like it would be such an easy thing to show no matter how much
Well, but at the end of the day, you still need to have the paperwork to back it up because we are under a microscope like you would.
But your loss in some areas must be so much that can be shown to, I don't know.
I understand. If you were to look at it in the big picture, yes. But nobody looks at it in the big picture. They look at it with their blinders on.
Okay. So I'm just trying to brainstorm it. Because I think offering some people not only just offsetting their cost in other areas, see the potential for that, besides the potential for the patient. I'm still going down that road, even though I understand what you're saying. This cannot be seen as you're doing this for profit.
No affiliate should be making anything that's not like reasonable and customary. This is not. Nobody should be selling tissue. That's just not the goal here.
Right. And I never see that as, I don't look at it that way. We're not selling tissue. We're selling the possibility of what the research can offer.
I think we all agree with you.
Yes.
That's just not the perception, sadly.
I mean, and researchers are paying for procurement. They're not paying for.
Yeah, no.
You're not buying a brain. You're buying a procurement service.
Exactly. No. And at the end of the day, it's all just sitting there, and it's all just going to be wasted otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's that's what it is. It's a waste otherwise.
Yeah.
It's a complete and total waste.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I work in a private clinic where if the patients want to take their remains with them and have them cremated, they can do that. Right? So then that's not a waste. But at the end of the day, if it's just being sent off to Stericycle or some other company,
Yeah.
I can't imagine there
It's
isn't
gonna rot in the
anybody-
ground,
right?
or it could,
You could actually
grow in
have
a
an
culture
impact.
dish and actually.
And have an impact. But I mean, I understand. There's so many different ethical levels involved, and people have very strong feelings, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to make the most people happy
Right.
and do the most good.
I mean, and to be mindful, oftentimes there was Lisa Harris gave a very interesting presentation on this at the NAF meeting. How oftentimes ethics or conscience, oftentimes stigma masquerades as ethics or conscience.
Oh, yes.
And so again, like you said, if people are looking at organ and tissue procurement services and looking at that with blinders on as opposed to seeing the big picture, why are you looking at it with the blinders to begin with, right? That's that's a manifestation. That's a manifestation of your own prejudices and
Lisa's been doing amazing work for the last 5 years or so on this. That's another affiliate that goes to 20 weeks.
She says she has quite a bit of experience with it, that she's provided materials to Michigan researchers in the past, although it sounds like her volume is not very big. What she was saying, it was very tiny.
It can't be that big because they were sending their students to Los Angeles to train.
Really?
So.
Wow.
Yeah. And she didn't come across on my list. I just know that they go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I think we kind of went through the folks, and like I said, I think your best bet literally at this point is FPA. Mm-hmm. And they have a ridiculous volume.
Yeah.
And Rachel Stewart is the person to connect with.
Yeah.
So whenever she answers me about the tissue, I'll follow
Definitely.
that up.
Yeah.
But I think you've got some good leads.
Yeah, and I mean, and if Dr. Russo is willing to have a conversation, I think we would both. I think we would both love to.
I think she's always willing to talk. We'll get her to have those conversations.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too pushy. And when I'm down in San Diego, I'll just learn a little bit about what they're doing while I'm down here, just to learn.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that the hostess is whistling.
Her wrist.
Is that what happened? Did you have the surgery, or is it just...
I asked her, she said it's not very exciting.
Thank you so much.
Maybe she's in this lovely dress listening.
Yes.
It's hard not to notice.
So when you know in the back of your mind that you've got X, Y, and Z organs that need to be procured, and we want them to be reasonably intact, and you convert to breech in order to do that. So are you saying that you can pretty much? I mean, there's no guarantees with any of this, but we can pretty much count on having the major areas, torso, thorax, abdomen, intact.
I'll actually collect what she wants sometimes. And put it in
Oh,
the
you
stock.
actually do the.
If I see it.
You do the collection, yeah.
Why not? It's
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I don't know. It makes the procedure that much better. Like, I've just done something even better. Like I said, I think that forming a relationship with the providers, which is why it was good that you were at NAF, because that was a lot of providers. The providers, just as much as the patients, want to do this, and I think they all love to participate in something like this.
Right.
It just adds another level of interest to what they're doing. Yeah, everyone has a different technique. So that's the other thing. I mean, there's definitely local variability. Just like no two people do a C-section the same way, or no two people do a hysterectomy the same way. No two people do a D&E the same way. But that said, if you maintain enough of the dialogue to the person that's actually doing the procedures and they understand what the end game is, there are little changes they can make in your technique to increase your
Even
success.
though they have a set way that they do it, they're open to changing them. Is that what you're
The
saying?
reasonable people, sure. I mean, there's always going to be the unreasonable person who, this is what I do, this is what I've done for 100
gonna
years.
change.
Warren Hearn.
Right.
Yeah. I love Warren Hearn, and he serves a purpose, but he lives in an alternate universe. He lives in Warren's universe. I love him. I use his instruments. I use a lot of his techniques, and, but he's Warren.
Are there, if we were to look at it from a different perspective, from kind of looking across the nation at the providers who are best, who are most technically skilled, maybe,
Yes.
who we can say, we need 2 intact brain hemispheres, we need thymus, liver, not shredded liver, not thymus in 8 pieces, but does that change the landscape at all if you look at it like who's more better able to kind of facilitate the process that way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like if you have very specific things that you're looking for, you're almost more likely to get that rather than at a clinic, at a private provider who does exactly what they want, the way that they want to do it.
Yeah.
So, for example, when I work at PPLA, they were seen by a nurse practitioner the day before. Their protocol is try to get in at least 6 laminaria. If you have more, great. If you can't, no big deal. I'll figure something out. But when I see my private patients at the other surgical center where I work, I put in the laminaria myself. I know, I don't feel like this is enough, so I'm going to do this or that differently. So, if there are very specific things you are thinking of, sometimes an independent clinic or a private provider, while your volume is going to be lower, your quality is probably going to be higher. And that's not true for all of them.
Right.
It's true for some
But
of
it's
them.
possible that they may have more freedom just to work the way they want to.
But on the flip side, for example, so I had 8 cases yesterday, and I knew exactly what we needed, and I kind of looked at the list, and I said, all right, this 17-weeker has 8 lambs, and this. So I knew which were the cases that were probably more likely to yield what we needed, and I made my decisions according to that too. So it's worth having a huddle at the beginning of the day, and that's what I do. I don't think other providers do that, but I actually like being involved in the process. So I say, okay, what are you looking to supply today? And I look at the list, and I say, well, all these patients, they only have 3 laminaria. I wouldn't hold your breath for that. I think I might be able to get it for this case. I think I might be able to get it for that case. Is there, what else can we do? But it's worth having that conversation. That's why I say the providers are important.
Yeah.
Most of the conversations you're going to have, I was going to say at the NAF meeting, there's kind of 2 different crowds. And I feel like a lot of the people that go to the NAF meeting are actually the owners of the independent clinics, and that might be who was coming to your table. But there's also the 2nd trimester providers meeting, and that's where you heard Lisa talk. Those are the folks who do just the cases that are going to yield the tissue that you want. So, there should be a way, and maybe Matt can figure this out, that you guys can establish a relationship with just those providers to just tap into those providers, because there's not a lot of us.
Right.
That's the conversation to have. Most clinics, it's going to be the clinic owner or the clinic manager is going to say, yes, we're doing this, this is what you're doing. You're not really going to talk to the provider. The provider's going to change every day, so it's just going to come in and do what they do every day. If you can establish a relationship with the providers, that would be great. Maybe when you work with an affiliate, once or twice a year they have a providers meeting, maybe you say, I don't know if you ever have a meeting with your providers, but we'd love to just come and introduce ourselves and just let them know about what we do, and that's who those people are in the tissue lab when they're wondering what that person is in the corner, and maybe you just forge that relationship to make the quality a little bit better. It can hurt.
Yeah.
And it could help.
Yeah. I didn't realize that. I thought there was a standard number of laminaria per patient, but it's highly variable.
Every clinic I've ever been to has an entirely
Different way of doing it.
Planned Parenthood in New York City, the surgeon that's there that day takes out the laminaria, does an exam, decides if it's enough for them. If it's not, they put more and they come back the next day. PPLA, if it's above 20 weeks, if you can get at least 6 in, it's fine. Family Planning Associates in Chicago has, what they have. Jerry Edwards has what he has. Warren Hearn has what he has. As far as medicine goes, this for a very long time has been a fairly data-free zone. In the last 3 to 5 years, we've seen more because Society of Family Planning has been publishing guidelines on cervical preparation and things like that. So in 10 years from now, I think it'll be much more standard, but we're still
Yeah. And so that's in part, that's why it's so important still to talk directly with the affiliates, because you can't necessarily tell us what exactly
I can tell you what it says in the standards. I can tell you the protocol says these are the things you must do, but then it allows for incredible variability. And like I said, you don't have to use digoxin. You don't have to use misoprostol. Some people use laminaria. Some people use diazepam. It's really all over the map.
Would you, because I, for example, heard from one of the STEM Express providers, I call her STEM Express provider, one of the Planned Parenthood providers in Northern California who works with STEM Express. She was saying that she was using misoprostol for all of her dilation, and that she thought made a huge difference in terms of getting out intact specimens. Can we make a request like that with or maybe more realistically, say digoxin? If we're working with somebody who is who diges at 20 weeks, and we're like, someone really needs 22-week thymus. Can we hold the dig for 2 weeks on that one?
So let me tell you an interesting story. So there's not a lot of clear data on digoxin. Providers who use digoxin use it for one of 2 reasons. There is a group of people who just use it so that they have no risk of violating the federal abortion ban. You induce a demise before you do the procedure. Nobody's going to say you did a live, whatever the federal government calls it, a partial birth abortion. It's not a medical term. It doesn't exist in reality. So some people use it to avoid providing a partial birth abortion. Others do it because they actually think it makes the tissue softer and it makes it safer and easier to do the procedure. Is there data for either of these? No. Because number one, the federal abortion ban is a law, and laws are up to interpretation. So there are some people who interpret it as its intent. So if I say on day 1 I do not intend to do this, what ultimately happens doesn't matter because I didn't intend to do this on day 1, so I'm complying with the law. There are other people that say, well, if you induce demise, it doesn't matter. You're never going to do it, so you don't have to worry about intent. So that's one side of the law. The other side, there are providers who very strongly feel it makes the procedure easier. I am one of those providers. And so a few years ago, we actually tried to get a whole bunch of affiliates to agree together to do a randomized controlled trial.
Oh, wow.
Where patients got digoxin or patients didn't. But at the end of the day, the affiliates who liked using digoxin didn't want to give it up, and the affiliates who didn't give digoxin didn't want to do it. So we couldn't get anybody to agree to randomize. So the likelihood that you're going to go to an affiliate that uses dig and ask them not to do it and have them say yes, not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
It's something.
The dig people do not want to give up their dig, and the dig haters do not want to give it, and not even in the face of research.
Wow.
So they say they work with UCLA and USC. So I'm thinking they.
UCLA is Novogenics. That's where they're based.
So I'm thinking they have Novogenics, which doesn't surprise me because Dr. Stewart sometimes fills in at PPLA, so she probably works with Novogenics. I asked if she has a procurement company. But so the likelihood that you're going to get somebody to not give dig, it's low.
Yeah.
You're either going to partner with somebody that never uses dig, or you're not going to have a choice.
Yeah, that's something that they're really set in their ways with, basically. It's not a...
Yeah, and until there's more data, I just don't see it changing it. Like I said, I tried for more than a year to get people to agree to do, look, this is research, this is a randomized controlled trial. They were willing to randomize everything else. They were not willing to give up their digoxin or give their digoxin. It's just, it's it's amazing that something that has such little data has such strong feelings.
So it sounds like even with data, the emotions were went out.
Yeah,
What they prefer.
I don't know. I don't think we're ever
Really?
going to get data. The data, I would love good data. The problem is the data that there is right now is wishy-washy. The data is, yes, providers could tell if the ditch worked or not. So they could tell if there was demise. Did that translate to anything at the end of the day? I don't know. Do they subjectively see it as easy? Yes, but that's subjectively. Does it change the procedure? Does it make it safer or easier? Are we ever going to get the volume that we need to show that? The incidence of complications is so low, you would need tens of thousands of cases to show a difference in complications. So we're probably never going to show a difference in complications. The third difference is, does the patient experience it differently? And there's only one study that really looked at this well, and looked at it in a small number of patients and showed supposedly that nausea was higher in the patients that got ditch. But they didn't measure the nausea at different parts, so you didn't know what the nausea was really from. Was it nausea from the laminary insertion? Was it from the ditch injection? Was it from just being pregnant? So the people who are anti-ditch generally say it doesn't give you any benefit and it just increases nausea. I don't see nausea as a negative. I think most of these patients are experiencing nausea already. And I can tell you I've been able to complete procedures that I know I would not have been able to complete if there wasn't ditch. But again, I don't have a randomized controlled trial to back that up. I don't know. Maybe we'll get there. We have been able to slowly get there with randomized controlled trials around cervical dilation. So I don't know if you guys have ever spoken to Lisa Goldberg. Lisa Goldberg is at the Brigham, and she's also a Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts. But she just got a grant to do a very large randomized controlled trial looking at what dilation is best, what techniques work. Does adding misoprostol make a difference? Things like that. I think it makes a difference. And so maybe after a few more years of success doing these large randomized controlled trials on dilation, somebody will be able to do it on digoxin again. But there's just a lot of people that just want to avoid any problem, and if there's a fetal demise, you don't have to worry about, intent, federal abortion ban, or anything else. So, like I said, if you want no ditch, your options right now are like UCSF and Planned Parenthood of New York City, and that's it. And the reason it's Planned Parenthood of New York City is because they all trained at UCSF.
Oh.
So it's like the UCSF school.
Wow.
Yeah. They're,
That's
to my
interesting.
knowledge, the only people that don't use ditch above 20 or 22 weeks. So it's going to be hard to get these bigger cases. Like I said, New York City is worth going for, and I don't know that they partner with anybody. So, I don't know what the feasibility of that is for you, but to me, that, other than UCSF, is the largest site of 20 to 24-week cases that have not gotten feticide. And I know because I'm a provider there, too. So, I practice in both places. My subjective experience, it's easier with it.
Interesting.
The other thing that might be interesting to you to learn is that there are some affiliates who are interested. So genetic abnormalities. Do you guys ever collect tissue in patients?
Once or twice, when there's a specific project going on with that stuff. And even certain genetic mutations are interesting not for harmful abnormalities, but beneficial, like for HIV. Long story, we don't have to get into.
Yeah, no, because there are affiliates that do cases higher than they normally would because they have genetic abnormalities.
For
we
fetal
don't know
medications.
if you would accept that tissue.
Yeah.
So
most
to know.
more than 9 times out of 10, 95 times out of 100, stem cell researchers want normal, healthy tissue because we're looking at therapeutic applications. For
That's what I figured.
that.
You're going to develop a cell line. You don't want it to have
exactly, yeah. But every so often.
Before I went to medical school, I did cell culture.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's heart muscle though.
Yeah. No, but so you know all about how you have a certain number of passages, and then after a certain number of passages, it's no good anymore, and you have to go source it again. So,
well, I thought people are going to develop a cell line, and there was a really interesting story in the news. You must have heard it about.
Which one?
There was a cell line that ended up ultimately being traced back to a patient, and the family was like suing.
Yeah. Henrietta Lacks, the HeLa cells.
There you go. Yeah, and so I read that and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah,
take it, do whatever you want with
yeah. I mean, yeah. If there's sometimes there's a specific, project that has to do with, I don't know, Down syndrome or sickle cell anemia or something very specific. So they do want something like that. But but that's definitely the rarity, especially when it comes to cell-based therapies and really the fetal cells are are getting the most action right now when it comes to translational research, which is actually trying to take things from the lab into the clinic, finding therapeutic applications that could go to market for patients the soonest. And there's some really cool stuff going on with neural progenitor cells right now, human clinical trials going on, I think stage 2 and 3 FDA clinical trials right now.
So there are providers who go beyond 24 weeks. Are you working with any of them?
Well, for example, Susan Robinson over in Albuquerque, they start doing digit 18 weeks. I had a great conversation with Susan at NAF because I recognized her from After Tiller, which I'd seen a year ago, which was wonderful. And so we had a great conversation, and she was saying that she had experience working with, I guess, Planned Parenthood in Fresno, or Stockton or something. She said
she works at the Santa Barbara, Ventura, San Luis Obispo Clinic, and probably Marmonte and some of the further north.
She'd said a couple of years ago she'd been working in like the Central Valley clinics, and they had been working with STEM Express at the time, and that she thought it was so fascinating to watch the tech work and all the parts, of course. So she said it's wonderful. I've done it before. We'd love to do it, but we start doing DIG at 18 weeks in New Mexico, and I think they are already working with somebody too for the or maybe with the university there. I don't know. There's some kind of something, but again, the really extreme or later cases, that's again not. There's really kind of the standard that researchers are looking for right now, I would say, is roughly between 16 and 22 weeks. I think that's kind of where everybody's focused on right now. Now maybe some of that is artificial because there just aren't that many places to get, 24 and later, and so that's why nobody's using later gestational tissue. I don't know. It's a result of the supply that's there, not actually.
So she's not working with anybody. She's just working on individual studies once in a while when it happens.
That's
I asked her if they're interested. Family planning
for FPA. Oh wow.
So you might have just hit the jackpot.
We might have another conversation very soon about that.
Yeah, well, the reason that I mentioned that is that, there are a few sites that go to 26 or go further, and, there's a lot of
Was there Planned Parenthood sites? Or
not yet, but there's a lot of conversation about who goes to the legal limit in their state. If they don't go to the legal limit in their state, why don't they? Is there another provider that does? So we're about to start doing some mapping work to say, are there states where nobody's going to the legal limit, and if not, why not, and what can we do about that? So that's I'll keep that in the back of my mind, because that's something worth thinking about.
Yeah.
And another state to just consider, it's kind of Western, is Utah. Really has just gotten their service off the ground, but there are no other providers in Utah, and they're very interested in going further. So
how far are they going right now?
I just gave them a waiver. They're probably going to 14 or 16, but I've just given them a waiver to go to 20, and I think they're going to start going to 20 on a regular basis. And Utah's got a nice airport, Salt Lake City, right there. It's kind of
It's not too far away.
And they train fellows, but they've got some really motivated providers, and I think that they would be someone else worth considering. Add it to my list.
Who's the medical director there?
His name is David Turok. He's doing a lot of work right now on emergency contraception and IUDs and large.
Interesting.
But he's a pretty incredible guy, pretty forward-thinking, always willing to push the envelope much further than anybody else, which is kind of why he popped into my mind. But I feel like there's about 1 million introductions that I want to, not only via email. I want you guys to talk to in person.
I mean, because certainly the ones who are closer, like Dr. Russo and I'm Dr. Patel, you said, for family planning?
In Chicago.
No, in Chicago.
Stewart.
Stewart, Dr. Stewart. I have it here. Yes, Stewart. Okay.
No, we'll definitely get you.
Well, it's easy for us to do the same kind of thing here, and the ones who are farther away, we need to be a little more preparation to.
Yeah, well, the ones that are further away, it's probably just makes sense for you
It's like
to
just wait until
chat with them
Miami,
in
yeah,
October, and then
yeah.
if something comes of it, you can follow up from there.
Yeah.
October is actually not that far.
It's this one's not too far away. Yeah.
I know,
No pun intended, right? For Halloween, October.
I'm trying to schedule another meeting, and I'm looking at the calendar, and I'm like, already the first 2 weeks of it's too soon to do it in the first 2 weeks of August. So I'm looking at October for scheduling meetings now.
Wow.
Where has the year gone? It's just wrong. It just gets faster.
Yeah.
Can we slow it down?
I know, right?
Maybe the work you're doing, slow time.
I think that's physics, not biology.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, there's advantage of time in the US for some people.
Is there?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what all the reresearchers want, huh? Some of the, I mean, that's the crazy. So that's the biggest thing about, R&D timelines are some of them are so shackled to the availability of, or an unavailability of material to work with. And so if you can really open that up and get the tissues to researchers when they need them and the stuff that they need, that can literally like cut in half the time that they're projecting for what they're working on. And especially if you're doing a study that is foreseen to have any kind of clinical application whatsoever, then the big thing that you're looking at is being able to reproduce and replicate whatever you're showing. And so you need more samples, you need to do more trials, and so again, it's just the volume.
So I just had a really weird idea, because I find it very interesting. It's kind of explaining how tissue procurement will affect the projects and things like that. Have you ever thought about doing just kind of like a little talk on it?
Like a little workshop,
at the NAF meeting, or just kind of a
if
little
they would
regional
like
meeting
us
for the
to,
local providers or something like that. Where people could come and hear about it and understand where the tissue goes and the impact it has and things like that.
Going through my mind as you're talking about the obstacles that we need to educate.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure people are dying to know. And if they're dying to know, here's the thing. If you can do it for the providers in a way, then you have backwards word of mouth. They're going to tell it to the patients, too. They're going to be able to share that information with the patients, and everybody's going to get on board. So, you do a little 30-minute session before the day starts or at the end of the day about this is what happens once a patient donates tissue. This is what really happens. This is how it affects timelines. This is how critical it is to the people. This is the impact that you can have. That's the best marketing you can ever do. And like I said, I think especially in a scientific community, they would all find it unbelievably interesting. So I certainly do.
Can we have a wine and cheese evening? We'll get Dr. Stewart and Russo and people from Pacific Southwest and everybody in a room together.
I think we should. I would let me reach out to them and say, do you guys ever wonder about these things? Would you love to just get together one night and kind of talk about what it means and what actually happens?
We could brainstorm about messaging afterwards and like all kinds of
No.
We're gonna change the world.
No. Look, every day that's what we work to do. Slow work, maybe sometimes we wish that things would slow down so that we could actually have a little bit more impact, but
this is the good of time passing quickly.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm going to start to change the way I think about this thing.
Good.
Reframe it.
Yeah. It's all about framing. It's all about framing. Yeah. I don't consider myself a very political person, but I think it's worth you doing something like that. Let's do like kind of a little local thing. And then, if it's a hit, you may want to do it for a bigger group.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you say local, how many people are you talking about in one area?
Well, here's an idea. The Southern California medical directors have an LLC meeting quarterly, and they do it somewhere in Southern California, where the San Diego, Orange, Pasadena, and LA people and Santa Barbara people all get together. So maybe we can do it like to coincide with whenever they're all meeting somewhere someday at the end of that day. But I can pull in the person who runs the program at USC. I can pull in the person who is at Family Planning Associates. I can figure out if there's anybody else locally or regionally that we should.
What type of venue and how much time?
I would just be interested to kind of hear what you were just talking about.
So 30 minutes.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, 30 minutes and then time for questions.
And then, just time to kind of chat and talk about it. I think that would be fabulous.
Yeah.
you can limit it to kind of medical director people, or you could bring in some of the local providers as well. We could pull in the local fellows. You know, I mean, you tell me what you think you would want to do, but I think that's an amazing idea.
And what are those times? You say they meet 4 times?
They meet 4 times a year. They meet every 3 months, and I know they just had one. You know, we may want to just do something else as a one-off, or we may just want to give you guys time to plan to do something in October, because I think that they just met.
Does that sound like something?
I mean, we should talk about this.
Yeah,
I feel
I'm
like
liking this idea.
This is exciting to me.
well, just I think I can't imagine that there's not one of them who just wants to understand a little better about the other side of the coin. We know our side really well. We want to hear your side, and it gives you an opportunity to hear our side and give you ideas as well.
Right.
But I also think it gives you can kind of test it and see what happens.
Yeah.
You want to take the show on alert, maybe you want to tell Matt, or you want to do a workshop on tissue donation and just what it means, or we want to do a little reception at the National Medical Conference and the forum or something. But I think testing it locally right here, right now, and see what comes of it is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
And I do think it's UCLA and USC both have a fellowship program, so they have OBGYNs who are training to be providers. So maybe. No, I think it's worth a little test to see. I think it would just, I think the conversation would be just unbelievably stimulating on both sides. I think we'd all get a lot of insight on both sides of the coin.
Yeah. Speaking of which, do you don't by any chance have on you like the PPFA guidelines on tissue procurement or anything like that?
There are no guidelines.
Not written.
Yeah, there are guidelines on research, but there are not guidelines on tissue procurement.
Okay.
And there will never be guidelines.
Oh. Just to keep it.
There's no guidelines. If something qualifies as research, if the affiliate wants to participate in a particular research study, there are guidelines on how that happens. If they're gonna, participate in something like this, there are mechanisms by which contracts can be reviewed and things like that, but there are no guidelines. This is something that the national office is not involved in. For the first few years that it happened, it was treated as research, and then we realized that was kind of overkill because we didn't have a particular IRB-approved study.
Right.
It just didn't fit into our framework, and so we just kind of backed off of that.
I guess I'm talking even in terms of like compensation and stuff like that, just to.
Nothing is written.
Yeah.
There's nothing in stone.
There's a security measure as much as anything else, I guess. Right?
There's certain, if people want to ask for guidance, there is, but do we have a written policy? No. And I can't imagine we're going to have a written policy at least anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would agree. I think these things are kind of best handled when the atmosphere is the way it is. So that kind of thing is best handled at the local level than anywhere else. So.
All right, so FDA apparently seems to think that it's research and that there's a wishy-washy. So I feel like it's worth kind of...
Wait, so explain that to me.
She said, but because we're a for-profit company, we can't really get involved in research. And I said, I'm not so sure that this is research. This is quite different. We actually...
If they want to talk profit, we'll talk profit. I don't know.
Well, it's funny, because at Planned Parenthood, we don't consider this research. And the FDA, apparently, they consider it research. So I also think that's another interesting conversation. I think that there needs to be some kind of a meet and greet, understand what it is and how it fits into all of our different agendas.
Yeah.
How the environment influences all of us. I think it's worth doing, for sure. So I think this is definitely to be continued.
Definitely. Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about? Was there anything else on your agenda?
Any more picking you want to do?
Cover
I've got pick. Okay, good. Well, I think we've got some good ideas here, though. I feel good about all the ideas that happened.
Very excited.
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thank you for being persistent and for having me here today for a fabulous lunch. And I have to tell you, I mean, I'm excited at the prospect of just hearing a little bit about what happens once you leave one of our sites with your tissue and what it means to the researchers, what it means in the big picture of it all. You know, it's almost like kind of image building, and it's a good thing for everybody.
Excellent. Especially at this time.
For sure. And who knows, maybe come November we'll feel even better. Something else will happen.
There's hope.
There's always hope. That's why we all do what we do. Yeah. So, I mean, so how did you get involved in?
I was a bio major in school, and I've done graduate research with my main interest is skid mouse modeling, which is where you have the humanized mouse model. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but so that's why I say liver and thymus and bone marrow so much, because that's the kind of the classic humanized mouse model where you have certain strains of mice that are mutated, so they lack a murine immune system.
So I went to college at University of Wisconsin in Madison, and I used to bike past Sprague Dolly, where they basically
Someone's dolly.
Rats. I used to bike past like this big Sprague Dolly facility, and I'm like, oh, this is where all these poor mutant mice come from.
Oh.
So
No. So they're not like ugly like freak or anything. No,
they're lacking this gene or they're lacking that gene.
Right.
They have whatever mutation they have, and they all have the same exact genetic makeup,
right.
which is really
And so if they're lacking a mouse immune system, then you can graft whatever it is into them, and they won't reject it. So you can graft human fetal tissue into them. And if assuming that it's it's fresh, it's the cells are viable, and so they'll start to the thymus will grow and produce thymus cells, and the liver will do its thing, and then you'll still have hematopoiesis going on, and so you can reconstruct a human immune system inside the mouse, and then that allows you to test different diseases, drugs, all kinds of stuff on a human immune system, but it's not an actual human because it's a mouse. So that is, it's because of that kind of model that we're on the brink of a cure for HIV. Literally, it's right. There already are functional cell-based cures based on bone marrow and things like that. That's what I was talking about, the CCR delta 32 mutation. I don't know if that means anything to you. Just throwing it up. It's a mutation that affects the way that the virus binds into a cell.
Okay.
And so individuals who have this CCR delta 32 mutation in their cells, the virus actually can't enter into the cells.
I know someone.
You know someone who has that mutation. You know the Berlin patient. The Berlin patient is what they call him.
I do. I know the patient.
You know the patient. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Wow. Yeah.
It's really funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting.
So. Yeah, so that's so it's it's kind of figuring out how can we use viral vectors or genetic therapy to alter take regular stem cells, alter them, put them back in, and then you're producing a new immune system that is itself immune to HIV truly. So. And there's other models. There's other ways to do it as well. There's some really interesting work being done where it's not based on the delta 32 mutation, but the idea is to actually genetically modify the cells so that they express the same factors and chemicals as typical HIV antiviral cocktails like medicine that people take. And so you actually so there was one study where they actually combined like the 3 most potent HIV meds and took whatever that combination was and inserted it into the cells, and then inserted that into the stem cells. So the stem cells would basically produce antiretroviral therapy stem cells. So
yeah, we're really excited. We just rolled out PrEP at Planned Parenthood, so that's absolutely
Truvada or something different.
Yeah,
Truvada. Yeah.
And it's actually affordable for some patients. Not a ton, but hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah.
But, see, that's the thing. I think if people got to hear kind of more about the bigger picture too.
Yeah.
that's what you needed to tell all these people at your meeting. Everybody, at the end of the day, they need to understand the big picture and the end game.
Yeah.
It's very easy for people to protest when they're looking with their blinders on at their 20 feet view. But if they get a 10,000 foot view and understand how it all fits together, they look at it
There's
just like
not
a
always
different
that
light.
opportunity, I think, what we have found is we have to, where is that person now? What is their, just being sensitive to how much they can hear. It's their How about you? How did you come to be?
Oh my God! It's funny. I train a lot of people, and I do a lot of mentoring and things. And I tell people I'm probably the worst person ever to tell you how to get where you are, because I didn't really ever have a plan. I knew what I liked and I knew what I didn't like, and luckily for me, opportunities presented themselves every so often, and so I made a decision every few years, but I never looked for a job in my life. I never said I need to do this or I need to do that. It just kind of happened. So, to make a long story as short as possible, I was an athlete, and I had a whole bunch of injuries, and I had a bunch of surgeries and things like that, and I became very interested in orthopedic surgery. And then I said, okay, I'm going to be an orthopedic surgeon. And then I went to college, and I said, I don't know if I want to be an orthopedic surgeon. Maybe I'll just do sports medicine. But I'll be a physical therapist, because that's easier than orthopedics are like a bunch of big old burly guys, and I was like, I don't know if I want to be with these people surrounded. That's just not what I look like. I don't know, I'm an orthopedic surgeon type. So I'm going to be a physical therapist. And when I was in college, physical therapy became a master's degree instead of a bachelor's degree. And I said, well, if I'm going to go to graduate school, I might as well become a doctor. So I decided to go to medical school. And then I hung out with all the ortho people again, and I said, no, this definitely isn't for me, but I really liked babies, believe it or not. And I said, okay, I'm going to be a pediatrician. I don't know if you know much about pediatrics. It's really treating moms, it's not really treating kids, and the kids you do treat are sick, and it's very depressing, and I said there's no way that I can do this. Like, I could maybe do perinatology, where I deal with like just born babies or neonatology. And then I said, okay, I'm going to become an OBGYN, and I'm going to become a maternal fetal medicine specialist. And that was kind of where I was going. And I will tell you the date. I was on call. It was my last day. When you're a resident in obstetrics and gynecology, you spend a dedicated amount of time on obstetrics, and you spend a dedicated amount of time of oncology. And in your senior year, it's 4 months of each. So my February 28th, 1998 was my last day of GYN ever as a resident, and then I would be done. In July I would graduate, and I would be an OB/GYN. And on that day there was a patient that was transferred to me from an outside clinic who had had a DNE, dilation and evacuation, late second trimester abortion, who was bleeding. And that patient was transferred to me, and she got to the hospital, and I met her in the emergency room, and I saw her, and she was as white as this napkin, and I still remember her name, I remember everything about her, and she looked up at me and she said, don't let me die, and she actually bled to death. So we did a hysterectomy in about 12 minutes, and she died, and it was very distressing and very upsetting. And I probably had a very different reaction than most people would, which was, well, I do DNEs all the time, and I don't ever have complications, and I think I'm pretty good at them. So I need to keep making sure that there are lots of people who can do these DNEs safely, so that there's not another patient like this. So that was the day I said, I'm not doing perinatology, which is high-risk OB. I'm going to do family planning, and I'm going to train other providers to do family planning. And so I interviewed for a fellowship in family planning, and Dan Michel was my program director at the time, and he interviewed me, and he said, why do you want to do this? And I told him the story, and he said, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years? And I told him all the things I wanted to be doing. He said, oh, you want to be the medical director of Planned Parenthood? I said, really? I didn't even know what Planned Parenthood was. I mean, I think I went to a Planned Parenthood once when I was in college. This was 2001. This was 2001. Okay. He said, do you want to be the medical director of a Planned Parenthood? And I said, oh, okay. So I finished my residency in 2002. I did the fellowship, which was 2 years. And then about 6 months after I finished the fellowship, I was still faculty at USC. I decided to stay, and I was running the family planning program at USC. And Planned Parenthood of Santa Barbara called me up and asked if I would interview to be their medical director. And I wasn't even looking for it, and I did. And so the next thing I know, I was their medical director. And I did that for 3 years, but I didn't have the opportunity to do as much research and teaching up there as I did when I was in LA. So I left there and I became an associate medical director at LA, where I ran the research program, and I trained fellows from USC. And I did that for a few years. And then I started consulting for PPFA. They asked me, they were like, will you write our protocols for this and that? And I did. And then they said, our senior director of medical services job is opening up. Would you interview for that position? And I said, no, I'm too young and I still have other things I need to do. And they said, we understand, but I can't promise you that when you do all those things, the job will be available. So we really think you should interview. So I did. And I got the job. And so that's where I am. That was 5 years ago. And I'm here now. So, I mean, every few years I've made a decision based on what I feel I should do and gut, but I've just been very lucky and it's all just kind of happened to me more than
Well, I totally disagree with you, and you shouldn't be a mentor.
I tell people all the time, I've just been very lucky, and they're like, well,
No.
you make your luck. I'm like, no, I don't think so.
No, there's a little bit that comes your way, but I totally disagree. I
Okay,
think that's
well,
fabulous.
Take that, point taken. But yeah, how about you?
I'm much, much older than probably both of you combined. It would take too long. What time is it? You need to be
If
out
I
by
could-
3. Oh my goodness, my story.
I'm older than you.
It's fascinating. I need to use the restroom real quickly.
We're not
if I
letting
could
you out,
step
so
out
let's
for a
see
minute.
how you do.
Where it is, but when you go and find it, then you can tell me where
It's in the back
Do you
over
know where
there.
it is?
Yeah.
You know. Okay.
It's,
Do you need to go?
Eventually. I'm not going to go right now.
Look at
Yeah,
us,
sorry to-
holding the bladders longer. No,
We're women.
yes, yeah,
We get it done.
and that's exactly how I get UTIs. I hold it too long.
Well, that's how most surgeons end up with kidney stones, because we're
Really?
we go all day without going. Kidney stones are very common in surgeons because they're in the operating room. They just case.
Yeah, yeah,
They
and
just
you
don't-
I don't even think about it when I'm involved in whatever I'm doing, and then
Me either. It's very easy to focus. All right, so I've got some time. Tell me your story.
it's too long, really.
Okay.
It's
There's no
well,
Reader's
okay.
Digest version?
Yes,
Maybe the
there
last
is.
5 years,
I
10
don't do
years?
Reader's Digest. I think and I've accepted that I don't do Reader's Digest. I mean, that connects me. Okay, so let's try. Let me just fast forward.
We can work backward.
Yeah,
forward,
no,
whatever you want.
I think starting in the 80s and being in a women's health clinic and seeing what women were going through. That's what really brought me to this table. Just working with people. I have no science. I mean, I have a little bit. I worked for a dentist and a veterinarian. I saw the waste, and so I saw that. But I'm not thinking here. I mean, that's just
Nobody
that was there.
plans for this.
No.
Me neither.
So working with women, and during the 80s when it got a little scary and wanting to start my family, and so left that, but still was working with people and women. So fast forward, my niece, who's probably more than Robert into the science of it and the researchers needing tissue. And so I just saw this positive message that could be given to women that are still, I'm still years after their abortion. So I just saw the possibility of such a positive message. That's why education kept
Yeah.
going through my mind, is we need to get the information out. So here I am doing maybe the reason I think you're absolutely wrong about not being a good mentor is because that's pretty much my story. I didn't plan, not a planner. When the opportunity arises, seize it. And that's what I saw you do. Is that right?
Yeah,
I mean, it
pretty much.
presents,
Oh yeah.
but you were prepared.
I was prepared. I was still a little uncomfortable. I mean, I had to kind of rethink everything. And, you know, change in healthcare is constant. Change is still difficult, especially when you're not planning for it at that point. I mean, please, I haven't remodeled my house for 7 years. I desperately need to. Thought of just living through that as torture, but no, it's knowing when an opportunity that shouldn't be passed up presents itself. That's,
You know how many people that are planners and then something happens that they can't go through?
and
That's
they can't
worse.
deal. Oh,
Exactly.
I can look, as an OBGYN, I can tell you that I can't tell you how many patients I've seen who came in with their birth plan, this thick. This is how my labor and delivery is going to go, right? And then you get to one corner and it didn't go the way they wrote it on paper, and they're forced to make a decision, and it all goes to hell in a handbasket because they weren't ready to deal when they needed to deal on the spot. So, no, I agree with you. Well, no, I think there's a lot of promise. And like I said, I think we all have kind of common goals. And I think education is a good place to start for everybody.
And even if that's just a conversation with people who already know. Well, that's not true. I'm just trying to bridge the people that need to, the women that I work with, the researchers that are out there looking for this, and then the people that have, just bringing all those people together.
Well, and it's a win-win-win. Everyone feels good about it at the end of the day. Everyone feels like they have made a contribution. That's fabulous.
So, hours of the day, what does your day look like?
Every day is entirely different. Every other Thursday, I'm in the operating room all day long. Most Fridays are my pretty flexible day. And then I would say any day, look, my office is in the East Coast, so I'm on my computer starting at like 6 a.m. in the morning. I work until 2 or 3. Then I usually see private patients at the end of the day if I have any. And I'm in the OR every other Thursday. I travel about 2 weeks a month. So unfortunately, there's no regularity in my schedule.
But I bet you like that.
Yeah, it keeps it interesting. It would be boring
That's
otherwise.
part of the not planning,
Oh, yeah.
but seeing opportunity.
Yeah, I can look at my calendar for like the next 2 weeks. I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
So where am I going?
It's just right back behind the bar.
Okay.
And the doors are really confusing. You push, you don't pull. It looks exactly like a pull door, but you push.
The same thing.
That's more complicated, believe me.
More complicated than the front door. Wow, I didn't know that was possible. All right, I will be right back. Give it my shot. Do it.
How is our time?
What's that?
Our time?
Our time is perfect.
Okay, we're not. Okay.
I was just saying I'm a terrible note taker.
I
have kind of a photographic memory, so it's easier for me to just like sit and listen as opposed to like trying to.
I hear you. I have to write certain things down just because there's so many that if I don't have like some key points, I'll just forget everything altogether, and I won't do it. So. No, I'm good.
I'm trying to think if we've covered everything. Is there anything that you feel?
I think we're good.
I don't know, maybe you're clear, so maybe we don't need to go over this, the compensation and how that...
Yeah, I feel like you got the point.
I think I've got the point. Yeah, I mean, I know that. So we want to be sensitive when we talk about that with people, obviously, and if it's an issue, it seems like when we're talking about that, it's going to be what we're looking at is less a situation of competing with other people who are just making, it's not so much about just competing piles of money
Exactly.
as it is of being able to fit the needs of the affiliate.
Exactly.
Because if they're just trying to be a successful nonprofit and meet their bottom line, that's ultimately what we're trying to facilitate. Does that sound like a good way to summarize it? Or?
Yes, and like I said, I mean, at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is say, if you were to take money out of the equation, which is what most affiliates are trying to do, how can we do this for you in the most beneficial way? But yeah, I think you totally got it.
Yeah. What are the kind of cost gaps that an affiliate's typically looking at, like when their services that we can help, or it's probably too detailed of a
I don't understand
of a question.
Or what do you mean? I mean, again, really, the way that they look at time is space and staff time. So, it's just a matter of here's how we can help. We're going to take up the least possible space. We're going to do as much as we can so that it's not your staff time, it's our staff time. And then maybe there is some other in kind, something else that can happen. So that it's just simply not they all want to do this. They just, if they don't have to present it to a single patient ever, that would be the ideal situation. Obviously, that's not going to work. Somebody's going to have to flag somebody or start the conversation or let them know this is available, and it's probably going to be their staff. But if you can, like I said, the way to do this with leaving the fewest footprints at the health center, it's going to be beneficial for everyone.
We can do that.
Yeah, no, I think we started thinking very creatively about ways to do that. And I do think feedback is great too. Sure, anybody can come and get the tissue donation and send it off. I think affiliates would like to know, we sent specimens to researchers working on this. I think that kind of little bit of positive feedback at the end will just make everyone feel better about the relationship.
Yeah.
Just kind of adds a whole other human touch.
Yeah, and we're talking about people in the nonprofit sector, so the motivations are a little different.
Yeah.
And it's
This is all, in anything that you can do to help them explain who's benefiting, the benevolence of what they're doing, I think that holds as much value as any cash price. So, I think if the affiliates would be proud of this, they would go back to their donors. They would go back to their boards and say, look, we contributed to this in this quarter just by adding this one service and working with this one partner. And I think that could probably help you on the back end too, because if there are board members of that, maybe they're board members else, somewhere else.
Yeah.
All right, who else can partner with this organization? How else can we contribute to this?
Yeah.
And there are bound to be people that have, personal connections, patients, donors, board members.
The Berlin patient right over here.
It's really, it makes a difference. So I think perhaps the difference is affiliates are looking to benefit in very, very different ways than just dollars and cents. Again, they're not going to do it in a way that costs them money.
Right.
They want to break even. They want to be compensated reasonably for the time and space and whatever impact that it has. But I think they're also looking for something much
And
bigger.
30 to 100, is going to be what we're looking at in terms of.
Yeah.
That's going to be that's what they'll reasonably think is going to cover
I think
what
so.
they're.
I think so. And I think again, you're going to have to, it's funny. We do a lot of training, and we've been trying to come up. Is there a way we can kind of standardize the contract and what the rate looks like? And at the end of the day, no. The line items might be the same, but at the end of the day, it's very different because the staff member that's involved, the amount of time that it takes them, the space, it's going to be variable. Can we come up with the line items? Sure. This is what I'm going to pay you for space. This is, what I'm going to pay you for your staff time for this. It's almost the way an affiliate comes up with a research budget. Right? I need this level of staff to consent the patient. That's going to take 15 minutes. This is what they get paid for an hour plus 20%. That's how much that comes out. So, can you come up with a standard way to do it? Probably, but I wouldn't expect it to be the same number.
Was that a PPFA project? You're trying to figure out a standard contract?
Yeah, we're trying. So a lot of the training programs are funded by the same donors, and they came back to us and they're like, how come this affiliate it costs this much to train a resident? How come this affiliate? I said, well, because that affiliate has 5 ultrasound machines in 2 rooms, and that affiliate has 1 ultrasound room in one room, and so they're losing patient revenue, and so it all has to fit into the bigger bigger picture. So. Can we come up with a template and line items and think about this creatively in a way that these are all the things we should consider? Yes. Is the number going to be the same at the end of the day for everybody? No way.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is.
It's just such a tapestry that we're looking at.
It's just like when a patient walks into a health center in Nebraska or Los Angeles or Minnesota, it's going to be a very different cost. And it's based on the payer mix and the demand and the level of staff that are required by the state medical board and things like that. At the end of the day, the number is going to be different but all the inputs should be exactly the same. And yeah, I mean, hey, in the perfect world, if you could find a way to help them deal with their biologic waste, pathologic waste, they would love that. You know? But
I mean, I'll do some research and figure out, what the details are with getting an incinerator and what that means for.
And also perhaps some of the people that you supply. I mean, everybody.
Yeah,
has to
because if
manage
there's
this tissue in some way.
for example, a university that just processes lots of, maybe there's a university hospital and they have their own,
Yes.
there's all kinds of
Yes.
networks that this ends up opening up. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know when we did research on it, we looked at, well, what are all the labs that we work with? Because these labs, we send the labs tissue, and at the end of the day, they do something with it. Turned out they use the same. They use Stericycle like everybody else. So
And so Stericycle was able to get the monopoly. And to figure out, everybody has garbage, and so
they bought up everybody's contracts. They bought up all the smaller vendors, and they're just kind of a big multinational. But there has to be another option. And messaging, that's a whole other issue too.
Yeah.
If you guys come up with a way to message, and it makes it easier for everybody at the end of the day. If there's some kind of one pager, this is something that we offer here. This is some nice little one page. This is the service. This is the type of research it contributes to. These are the type of achievements we've been able to work. If this is something you might be interested to, ask your doctor or nurse, or this is something that works for you.
Yeah.
It'll make it easier for whoever actually does the consenting.
Yeah.
It'll drive demand.
Yeah.
That's a win-win.
When this is, as far as consenting, do you at your site is it Planned Parenthood counselors who are doing the consenting, or is it Novogenics?
It's the same medical assistants who basically consent for everything else. Once all that's done, they say also, by the way, we do this.
So then it's a PPLA consent form for tissue donation.
It is a PPLA consent form for tissue donation. But the interesting thing I'll tell you is, so some people consent, some people don't. But the funny thing is, in the second day, when the patient actually comes back for their procedure, when they're waiting, what often happens is the Novogenics person will go talk to people who haven't consented, and they usually do once somebody has some time and energy to sit down and actually have a conversation with them. So she ends up usually picking up several more specimens just from just being there and speaking.
Interesting, yeah.
Because the seed's been planted.
The seed's been planted. They thought about it for 24 hours. Now here's somebody else who's, they're sitting there, they're waiting, they've got nothing else to do. It's not like one on top of the next, on top of the next, on top of the next. So I think it's always beneficial if you have somebody that's just what they do, they're always going to do it much better than incorporating it in. But it can be. It works both ways.
I was just thinking in terms of if we would end up using our own consent form, or if we would need to use the Planned Parenthood consent form.
I mean, you could use whatever consent form you created, but it would still have to kind of be approved and end up being on there.
And at the end of the day, it sounds like it's another thing that, again, depending on the affiliate, it's going to...
Yes.
Yeah.
But one thing I can promise you is we won't have to go through the rigmarole of a research project, because there is precedent for this now, and affiliates know how to deal with this. Like I said before, it was a nightmare. It had to go through an IRB, not just your IRB, it had to go through an IRB for the affiliate, it had to go through the national office, it had to go through contracts and all these other things. We've totally removed ourselves from the equation, because we've said, look, this, in reality, is this tissue going to research eventually? Yes, but this is a dedicated product that adds additional risks. There's no specific protocol. We're not changing the way we provide care for the patient. This is just a decision between you and the patient, and we're not going to be a part of it.
So is it only the affiliates that have a robust research department, like Gulf Coast, have IRBs, or?
Yeah, and most of them use commercial IRBs.
I think most people do.
Yeah, they just use a commercial IRB, and they all know which IRB to use depending on what they're doing and how they feel about it. So, most people hate Western IRB now.
No, there's quite a few options out there, Quorum and some of the other ones.
I get emails from Quorum on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But everybody's going to have their own process. That said, most of the affiliates tend to go the higher gestational ages, also tend to be the more well-developed, so there might be a little more process involved.
More process involved.
Yeah. But I can't speak to everybody's individual process, because it's different. Like I said, I'm going to have a conversation with Rachel, for example. misperception on every level. I don't think that misperception exists in Planned Parenthood anymore, because this is a conversation we've been having for a year or so now, where people know it's not research, and yes, it's an alternative to help you come up with a way to manage your tissue, but it's not going to count for all tissue, because everybody's not going to be eligible and everybody's not going to consent. You're still going to have someone else have to manage your tissue. Even if the tissue is donated, everything's not donated. At the end of the day, it all goes somewhere.
And that's all just conversations like we're having. None of that's written down, or
No.
Is that, I mean, so if we're concerned about messaging, I just maybe that's, I don't know if you can. Well, you can have messaging just by spoken word, not just, you don't have to have stuff written down for messaging.
Well, and you can have messaging. And what happens is folks will ask the national office questions, and we certainly have answers to the questions, but we don't have a policy per se. And that is by choice. So for now, that's the way it will be. And when they ask the questions, they're going to get the answer. It's just getting people asking the question. But I think, like I said, I think people have been talking about this long enough that now California is pretty saturated. I think we have an opportunity with FPA, but most of the other locations, I don't think they are so much. And so it's just a matter of what makes the most sense, where you can put some resources, and how it can all work out. But I mean, between PPFA and FPA in California, I think you have a pretty broad reach. I don't know of any other volume providers. And the academic sites, they'll be at the forum, but they don't have any particular volume. But Cedars is going to have a fellowship program. They're in the process of putting it together. USC has one. UCLA has one. Those are basically the three sites that are training all the providers in the region. So, if everybody who's providing knows you exist, I don't know what your interest is in a small private provider who just wants to call you up and say, I'm doing one case today, do you want to come out and do this? It's kind of a lot of work.
That's really not an ideal situation.
This is why you want to go with somebody like PPFA that just does 40% of the cases and has like a whole schedule for the day. But again, FPA is a possibility. We just need to do some education there on both sides. So now they don't ditch until 18.6. Now I just need to let them know it's not really research.
Does FPA do like actual research where they have IRBs and stuff for that?
I think they might participate in a one-off study, but she was just saying they feel uncomfortable participating in research because they're for-profit. I think it actually looks worse for their research partner. If a for-profit company is doing research.
I'm sure that the partner can make that determination, though. They're talking about people who are partnered with FPA, or?
She's basically partnered with USC and UCLA to help them recruit for studies, but I guess it looks kind of weird when a for-profit partners on a research project, because they probably have they can be accused of having an outcome in mind if they stand to gain something, as opposed to just general letting patients donate their tissue. This is a service. I see it as a service that is offered to patients. And it just happens to be a service that's offered to the researchers on the backside, but that's not what's seen on the face of the health center side. That's, if our patients want to do this, we want to make it available to our patients. And I think I can have that conversation with Rachel as well. So it might take a little while. I need to have a few conversations with Rachel before I make an introduction. I need to get her there. We'll see what happens.
How much time do you think you need to have that? I don't want to.
A couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I'm just because I'm leaving town on Monday, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to have a real conversation with her until I get back. I'm leaving town on Monday for a week, and then I'm in New York for half the week, and then I'll be back. So I'm guessing mid-August. It's not too far away.
No.
It's July 25th.
Time goes quickly.
And apparently that's a good thing.
Yes, it is. You just need to look at it differently.
Yes, I need to just change my perspective. So is there anything else we haven't touched on?
I think we're probably saturated for now.
Like much of Southern California.
I know, right? But, the conversation will continue. I'm sure that there will be a million things that'll come up.
I'm going to have to write a whole bunch of follow-up emails. And, I'm really looking, if we can get you guys at the forum, I think that is going to be pretty beneficial. We'll get some people by your table once I know where it is.
I mean, I'm sure we can commit to that. Like, I mean, I know we've been intending to do it. I don't know how far Brianna has gone in talking to the organizers, but I mean, I think at this point, even if there were like some other stem cell meeting or something that was at the conflict of the same weekend, I think that this is easily more important.
It's like October 11th or something.
Yeah.
It's around October 11th. You know more than I do. I just know I have to go down there on the 9th. Probably then the 8th.
Are you presenting there or speaking or anything?
I run a lot of parts of the meeting, and there's pre-meetings. So it's basically 3 conferences back to back to back. So I have to go. I'm having a pre-meeting on the 9th. I have to go to the meeting on the 10th and 11th, and then the 12th and 13th, and then I have a meeting on the 14th. And I'm hoping to take a few days off to just breathe after, because it's like 6 days of no sleep. But I just go where I'm told.
Yeah.
But I think I'm giving 2 talks at the meeting. But it's part of a.
So what can we do so that this part that you're helping us with, in a couple of weeks, send a little reminder? Or
yeah, I mean, I'll send a follow-up email after this, just to kind of make sure that I've got my follow-up thing.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, I'm going to have this conversation with Rachel. I'm going to reach out to Arizona. I'll do, it'll take me a little while to figure out what Gulf Coast is doing, to figure out what Orange is doing, to figure out what San Diego is doing, to reach out to some of the folks in the East Coast, to reach out to Ashleisha in Chicago, and also reach out to Utah. And I mean, so like I said, I'm going to be at a retreat all week next week, so a lot of this stuff probably isn't going to happen until the week of the 4th, or even the week after the 4th. So why don't we check back in mid-August to figure out what's going on with you guys being at the forum, and me getting some contacts out to some people, and we can figure out where we are then.
So I'm going to say about August 19th.
That sounds wonderful. By then I should have all the emails out.
Okay.
And that's right before I go to the CDC, so I have a few days to get my act together. Yeah, no, and I would love to talk more about just kind of, like you said, like a little meet and greet just even in Southern California, and talk about who you're working with and the work that they're doing, and just kind of understanding the whole process. I'm very excited at that. That sounds really good, because everybody talks about tissue donation, but it's kind of a giant.
It's
Kind of puts a whole face and a whole other perspective on it. And like I said, especially at the places where if it's our staff that are talking to the patients, we know what's going on. They know what's going on. Everybody knows what's going on. It just it makes it more genuine and true.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so we will be following up, circling back in a few weeks.
Yeah.
This has been pretty beneficial.
This was good. Yeah, thank you so much for being able to take the time to.
Thank you for being persistent. That's what it takes with me, because I am busy and have
Senior medical director
things going on at one time. So
Persistent, but yeah. Okay. Excellent. Well, I am going to use the bathroom.
Okay.
it's just as you hook out to the right, you'll see it. Ours is closer than yours, so it's there with a big W. All right.
Okay.
Well, I am going to say my farewell then.
All right. I'll just.
So good to see you. Thank you. This was a very good meeting. I'm so glad you guys do what you do.
I'll be right back.
Okay. You don't want to. You'll want to. I'll wait here with your stuff. You want to come back here?
And
Okay.
I will
All
hopefully
right.
see you
definitely.
before Miami, but if not, I definitely want to see you in Miami.
Absolutely.
And I will shoot an email.
All right. Thank you so much. Drive safe.